Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here, your commentator, alongside me, TK, who is going to be rounding off the season with me.
Down the inside,
absolutely impossible scene.
This is for the win between these two.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
He needs to get it done now.
Blakey will dive to the inside.
We'll go bust. We got our elbows out.
Ronnar takes the lead.
Because here comes Alfie Butcher.
Can't really complain with that one.
It's not going to be easy. The pressure is on, of course.
Jarno Watmere is your champion. Well, folks, 7 days removed after a blockbuster British Grand Prix race here at PSGL, we welcome you back this time for the Xandvoort round, round 4 on our run to the Season 40 Championship title. My name is George Morgan, your commentator once again. Joining me as always, Tom Knight, also known as TK as well. And TK, obviously great to be back first and foremost, but it'd be rude of us not to touch on really the high drama that has certainly unfolded over the course of the past week or so. I mean, I personally, just to give you my thoughts and feelings on it before we get into the discussion proper, I made my thoughts clear on social media saying that I felt that was Jarno's win all day long, given the very nature that, of course, he crossed the line. There wasn't any rule that explicably said that there would be a penalty for entering the pits on the final lap. Obviously, it came down to Article 3.1, folks, which basically questioned the sportsmanship side of it, which ultimately, and I'm not sure whether you agree, you might well do, that as a steward is open to interpretation.
I think very much so. Like, for those of you maybe at home that don't know me, I have a law degree. I have a background in kind of legislation and that sort of element. So for me, something that has a rule that is so open-ended shouldn't necessarily side so well with the party that drafted it. But it's one of those things that will forever be open for discussion, especially within league racing and this sort of environment in which we find ourselves at the moment. So was it the right call? I don't think that's up for us to judge, but obviously I think we've had our opinions made quite public.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I mean, we witnessed a great moment. First and foremost, I think what has to be said is that it's definitely the most seen and most dramatic, most extraordinary moment in the history of league racing, and that goes without saying. I will stand by that statement. Obviously, I truly believe that maybe it's one of those things that should have been looked at and said, right, fair enough, you got the win. In future races, though, we are going to ban the use of the pit lane on the final lap to avoid anything like this happening. That is another route that we could have easily gone down. But hey-ho, the stewards had their say. They've laid it on the line. Of course, we are going to look tonight now at Xandvoort, and it's Jarno's home race as well, Tom. A track where he has won before as well. All the way back in season 27 was the first time we ventured around this circuit. Jarno won on that occasion in the Mercedes, of course. He's won here twice, in fact, won a season after the next. So that would be season 30. Joni Tormela, believe it or not, taking the victory in season 29 in an AlphaTauri. And AlphaTauri also taking 2 wins in the history here at Xandvoort with Jake Benham, who wasn't granted an AlphaTauri driver, but that night he was driving the AlphaTauri car. So we have got a spicy one tonight, TK. Mercedes and AlphaTauri winning races around here twice apiece. Are we going to see the same again, or is there going to be a new team enter the fold?
I think that's the question, isn't it? We've got such dominance from cars of the past. Obviously, if you look at the lineup that they necessarily bring here this afternoon, are they at their strongest at the moment? I think most would probably argue no, not through any fault of their own, but sometimes that's just the way kind of the cookie crumbles. You've got to look at Red Bull as an opportunistic team here. Maybe even Sauber coming through with Thomas Ronhaar back to full force. Could we see another team? I think we certainly could.
We definitely could do. Let's take a look at that last race result after the penalty was issued, not just to Jarno Watmere, but also to Otis Lawrence. Now, just to bring it home for you guys, of course, we've discussed now the Jarno Watmere penalty. Of course, the eventual penalty dropping him down into 4th place. Otis Lawrence also penalised for the early move on Frederick Rasmussen in the opening stages at Britain. But of course, Rasmussen, off the back of the penalties that were issued, he now takes the race win. Ronhaar clinches a penalty, clinches a podium for 2nd place this time, and Nicolas Longuet joins him inside the top 3. Also, Otmir, as I said, P4 with Lawrence P5, Burremand in P6, Benham 7th, Tormela, Klaffenbach, Berejne round out your top 10. Of course, the pole position was taken by Barry Burremand, and Ruben Pedreño took the fastest lap, but Pedreño would lead or end up as a retiree along with teammate Caraton, as well as Linton and Crozin. And it was definitely the story for Haas and Williams. They opted against the grain, really, in terms of the strategy going through the race, TK. Eventually, they fell foul of it against the rest of the grid.
Sometimes you have to take those gambles. Sometimes you have to take those risks. It didn't necessarily pay off at Silverstone because of how dramatic the weather can sometimes change, and maybe they were hoping for a bit of a miracle. Alas, didn't come their way this time, but you never know. One of those gambles they may make down the line could well and truly pay off and see them get a fantastic result from it.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, let's take a look at the driver standings now and how they fare after that last race result. It's Frederick Rasmussen, Lawrence and Otmir all on 32 points at the moment, so no clear leader in the championship. The only reason Frederick Rasmussen leads the way is due to countback just by sheer podiums accrued. Also further down, Longuet in 4th, with Ronhaar now up to 5th, with Burrman now down in 6th place, with Alfie Butcher 7th, Caraton, then Fassi and Ido rounds out the top 10, with Benham, Berejne, Pookie, Klaffenbach, Tormela, Linton, Crozin, Hofland, Ozyildirim and Hardy. Down at the bottom, of course, Ozyildirim and Hardy still chasing their first points of the season post-Britain. Now we'll look ahead to the team standings. Red Bull still kings of the castle, 64 points and clear of Alpine at the moment, and that could yet grow here this time around if Jarno Watmere once again performs at this circuit where he's chasing a 3rd win at Xandvoort. Rasmussen chasing his 1st Alpine with a great chance given the lineup they have this season. A very talented youngster by the name of Otis Lawrence and the ever-proven Danny Berejne, now a veteran in the F1 sim racing space, but also watch out for Ferrari with new partnership, Barry Burremand and Ishmael Fassi. Let's take a look, though, at the season's grid as a whole. Of course, as you all know, Otis Lawrence, Danny Berejne in the Alpine, Duncan Hoffland and in Aston Martin with Nicolas Longuet. Then we have Barry Burremand Fassi at Ferrari, Linton and Crozin at Haas, Thomas Ronhaar and Julian Klaffenbach at Kick Sauber, Alvaro Caraton, Ruben Pedreño at Williams, and Tom Manley, Ulas Ozyildirim at RB, Jarno Watmere, Frederick Rasmussen at Red Bull, and then of course we have Istvan Pookie, Lucas Blakely at Mercedes, Alfie Butcher and Jake Benham at McLaren. This is tonight's grid. Of course, a few changes. Josh Ido stepping in for Danny Berejne at Alpine. We have Will Lewis stepping up in the Williams alongside Ruben Pedreño, and Joni Tormela back at a track where he won before, Daytona dating all the way back in season 29. He's alongside Pookie tonight with Xander Van Dyken stepping in place of Jake Benham, who will not go on to win a second race round here this time. He is joined by Alfie Butcher as always. In terms of the calendar, we are now at the Netherlands. Next week is a break week. We have Austria, China, Belgium, Jeddah, Qatar, then another break week to come. Round 10 takes us to Bahrain, then Australia, Mexico, Vegas, and Abu Dhabi to round things off. But I think now, folks, now that we move through into the race portion of tonight, first and foremost, before we get stuck into this Xandvoort circuit, let's have a quick lap from Brendan Lee.
We are here in Xandvoort for round 4 of the PSGL Championship. High speed, flowy, precision, absolutely needed to maximize a lap time potential around here. I think in qualifying, it's one of many drivers' favorite. It's really difficult, really rewarding to hook up a lap here. But come race day, unless you're in P1, it's probably not the favorite. It's really difficult to overtake around this circuit. As you can see, very narrow between the white lines, very high speed, producing a lot of dirty air, and it's just going to be difficult to overtake. That will open up many opportunities in the pit stop window to take that track position, so watch out for that, how the strategy unfolds. The absolute driving style around here is super on the nose. Get the car rotating and fight the rear if you need to. Any understeer around this circuit will absolutely obliterate your opportunity to go for pole position here, so watch out for drivers rotating the car on the nose out of the final corner. And this has been your lap preview here in Xandvoort.
Well, a big thank you to Brendan Lee for that. Yes, this is the track where we are setting in place to race this time. A circuit that has certainly offered much in the ways of great racing in the past. 4.259 kilometres in length, 2.646 miles, 14 turns, opened all the way back on the 7th of August 1948, based in North Holland, I should say, in the Netherlands, that being Xandvoort. TK, this track is a roller coaster ride.
It certainly certainly is, and certainly has been in races gone by. It is a thrill for us in the commentary box, and I'm sure those driving it as well. The undulations that the drivers really get to experience, throwing them up, down, left and right. It's a test on both kind of mental and physical determination, because you've got to try and keep your eyes on the circuit that ever wants to evade that centre of vision.
Yeah, well, we can now take a look at on-screen pictures. Of course, Q1 now underway, but no times on the board just yet, and it's actually all clear out on the track. Now, just to reaffirm, many of you might be questioning why are they running the intermediate tyre, or at least why is Reese Linton running the intermediate tyre at the moment. It's just to get those early installation laps in place. Obviously, no rain expected through the course of this session. It is going to be dry, folks, so no concerns with regards to that. Obviously, the early goings doesn't really matter too much in Q1. It's what you do just before the timer hits zero that matters here, TK, and you need to be clinical, especially on an F1 Sim Racing World Championship grid.
Absolutely. We can look at the grid. You can see on the left-hand side of your screens just the vast, quantity, but also the veracity of the drivers that are lined up here this afternoon. They've got history and they've got championships behind them by the plenty. So there's a lot of attention on all these drivers, but also when it comes to these first few qualifying sessions, you've got to make sure you hit the track at the exact right point, both to avoid traffic, but also to make sure that you have the track at its most optimal. We've seen that in the races gone past, especially Silverstone, when we had that dry qualifying. It was vital to get out there at the right time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, timing is absolutely everything. I can tell you, like I said before, folks, no rain expected through the course of this session. We've still got 11 minutes and 50 or so to bring you. It is dead silent on the circuit right now, but a lot of excitement could yet be brewed. Of course, we are seeing some familiar faces returning to the series once again. Obviously, Will Lewis, we mark his return. Of course, we saw him last time back at Silverstone as well. He was meant to give us a little VT piece tonight as well. I can tell you for the second week running, he has forgotten it, but we are going to forgive him because he's Will Lewis and we love him dearly. But yes, here back again for Williams. Of course, represented Williams in the F1 Sim Racing World Championship as well, Tom. And we know how hard is it to get seats for the big championship. As we all know, it's a very competitive world out here, especially in the world of league racing, because this, of course, is the litmus test to F1 esports or F1 sim racing as we know it. And obviously, Will is someone who's grinded away, much like the likes of young Jake Benham and also Wilson Hughes. They've come in together almost, a good team of people that have raced together at a very young age. But for Will Lewis, it's it's really been hard for him to really find his feet as a main roster driver. Remember, this is a young guy who fought against Ismail Fassi for the PSGL F2 title not too long ago, and Will Lewis prevailed, arguably, on that occasion.
Yeah, he certainly did, and it is such a tough series, but also a tough league to get seats in. Obviously, if you look at PSGL history, the amount of leagues and the amount of kind of divisions that they've run over the course of the season has gone up and up. It's been incredible to see the demand for people wanting seats, but obviously there will always only be those 20 seats at the top. Yes, there may be more as we head into 2026 and 2027 as Cadillac join the grid, so we are going to have a 22 car grid going forward. So there's more opportunities for some drivers to come through, but it's still going to be overly competitive.
Yeah, I could see a lot of questions about my hair and why it's greasy. I can tell you, folks, I'm trying a new kind of product. Of course, I'm not advertising it here tonight on PSGL. I can tell you it is Brill Cream. I do love it, and it offers me a little bit less of a harsh buzz on top, so that's the reason for it. Went probably too much detail on that, but nonetheless, I just thought you ought to know. As we now see the cars make their way out onto the track, 9 minutes and 30 to go. Just want to say big love in the chat for Jake Benham as well. Of course, we do love you, Jake. We do miss you on the grid here tonight. Obviously not featuring for McLaren here with his new team this evening. Of course, Alfie Butcher sided with Xander Van Dyken, who is again another driver who's had a very prosperous history over time in league racing as well. TK generally found his form on console prior to moving across onto the PC platform, and you know, some drivers have done well in terms of crossing over from console platforms onto the PC. For Xander Van Dyken, it sort of vibes to the fact that he's still trying to find his feet.
I mean, there is no harder environment to find your feet than in a PCF1 tier, because the competition is already at such a level where you've got to be competitive and you've got to be competitive quickly. But to make that transition and then try and go for it straight from the outset, that's a whole other weight that's been added to his shoulders. And, you know, we've had drivers and we've had competitors that have gone from the likes of the top tier of PlayStation over towards PC, and they've landed kind of around F3, F2, and done well, but not necessarily made it to the heights properly yet.
Yeah, no, I can agree with Lucas. Jake Benham's hair is distinctly better than mine, and that goes without saying. As we now watch as Duncan Hoffland makes his way around the circuit, coming out of the top of the crest now. Obviously, plenty of areas to be concerned about around this particular circuit. Descending downhill out of the slaughter marker box and then down through the soiree of corners that you then have before you then reach the long straight coming out of box 10, basically turn 10 at this point, as now we see certainly Duncan Hoffland and his home track. Of course, someone who has been part of the Aston Martin fold for such a long time, now returning once again. Just trying to get those tyres a little bit more up to temperature. I can tell you that the purple sectors are now started to swap around. Frederick Rasmussen now holding on to the purple first sector time with a 26.460. That has immediately been taken away by Ruben Pedreño, the young Spaniard. Of course, part of the Williams team, as now Duncan Hoffland looks to now launch his first time onto the board. Let's see if he does complete it. That rear light flashing a little bit, so that suggests that energy is now a commodity for Duncan Hoffland as he now goes to the top with a 1:17.770. We'll keep our eyes peeled though as now Frederick Rasmussen comes around the final corner. Of course, a man who went fastest in that middle sector before, former race winner here at Xandvoort. Joni Tormler goes fastest, and now Rasmussen goes first fastest this time. So the early laps are coming in. Here comes Otis Lawrence as Pedreño goes quickest ahead of Rasmussen. Otis Lawrence, who of course overtook Rasmussen but then was later penalised for it, now sits at the top of the tree with 6 minutes and 45 to go.
We've already had one driver find their way into the gravel. It was going to be the Haas of Race Linton. He just lost the rear end of the car heading through turn 9 into turn 10, spun off into the gravel. Fortunately, no damage to the car, but certainly will harm his lap times and did have to try and go again. I think he's going to have a lot of pressure on him now, essentially one lap down from what he was expecting.
Yeah, not ideal. A few drivers still finding their feet. Tom Manley up into 12th place. Julian Klaffenbach, incidentally, went second fastest. Really promising showing there from him. We also have Duncan Hoffland now making his way down towards the line to register an improved lap time. And this is an improvement from Hoffland as he goes 6th fastest here and now. Other times coming through. We've also got Alfie Butcher making his way around, as is the Red Bull of Frederick Rasmussen, opening up that rear wing and heading down towards the line once again. Purple in the middle sector and fastest once more as a 5-place grid penalty gets opened up now further down the grid. But remember, we do have a lobby reset prior to us getting underway, folks. But of course, that could compromise, actually, just in terms of mindset. Obviously, it does not help the confidence if you make these little mistakes early on. But Rasmussen, 107.879, clear, the only man in the 107.8s.
Ron Haas also made a mistake heading in through turn 8 towards that kind of difficult second sector. Just rode the curb. We all know the one that we're on about. That left-hand side just had both wheels either side of it. The car was lifted up too much, couldn't get the car turned in, and Lass found himself pretty much skating forwards without an opportunity to try and turn the car in. So a lot of drivers are getting caught out here in Xandvoort.
They certainly are. Tom Manley managing to muster in a 13th place lap time just at the very death there. Thomas Ronhaar also had his home circuit with 2 personal bests in the first 2 sectors. Obviously, this will be regardless because he's yet to set a lap at all at the moment. And got the sense that he's been feeling the pinch a little bit in terms of the competitiveness of this season at the moment, TK, because whilst, of course, he did get a podium inherited after the penalties last time, I spoke to him prior to the British race, and he wasn't in a position, he felt, to be able to do a sort of video piece with us because he was so focused on trying to improve his pace and performance, and he just felt that preparation had gone amiss. Obviously not his words completely, but on the same gist, on the same lines, that he hadn't necessarily put the preparation in ahead of the PSGL season for season 40. So at the end of the day, Ron Haas playing catch-up. Just how much on the back foot can that put a driver as such?
I think it's not only that he hasn't necessarily put the time in to practice for PSGL, he's been out doing kind of other forms of motorsport in real life. He's been doing a lot of karting if you follow him on social media. And I think that's something we kind of alluded to last week as well, that he's been out doing something slightly different. And, whilst they're both forms of motorsport and they're both in the same sort of subcategory as you were, they are going to be different driving styles from one to the other. There's a different feeling of feedback in the car. I think that's going to take a lot to kind of get over, especially as you head into times that are so tough and so close together on this grid.
Yeah, obviously different behaviours in terms of how some sims perform against others, and not only that, when you do come out of the real life capacity, that is where things can be a little bit more complex because you've got to factor in things like G-force and of course other things that may happen on track in a real life sense, whereas where it comes to sim racing, you're dealing more within the realm of zeros and ones as such. You can predict certain things unlike you can in real life. So while of course you can predict things, if you're spending a great deal of time in a real life sense, then maybe you start taking the more real life essence into the sim, which can counteract your efforts at being the fastest driver on circuit. We'll wait and see. Obviously, Jarno Watmere will know a little bit about that, given his single-seater career. That happened quite a few years ago now, prior to him winning his first F1 Sim Racing World title. Of course, he competed in the Formula Central European Zone Championship, which is remarkable, really. That was an F4 championship that he was very much part of, and lifting himself up the single-seater ladder, and was definitely on the right lines, really. Obviously, as we all know, budget is a big thing in motorsport. Of course, Jarno has a grand footprint. His family are obviously very involved in the single-seater side of racing, and of course with teams in Holland or in the Netherlands, such as MP Motorsport, for example, providing drivers with grand opportunities. Obviously, Van Amersfoort, one of the biggest teams in Dutch racing, of course offering a platform. I've commentated on the likes of Kaz Havercourt in the past, who has now since moved on from Formula Regional and now moving on to Porsche Super Cup to compete. As we now watch as Alfie Butcher makes his way down through the home straight now to kick off yet another lap and send it down through towards turn 1. Of course, Butcher, a young star that certainly made a name for himself in his debut season of the F1 Sim Racing World Championship. His father was there to witness absolutely everything as well. His first lap onto the board, a 108.462, nowhere near representative, and if he stays here, TK, it's an early elimination. It's goodbye the Butcher.
It absolutely will be. He's got to try and get up above that 16th place to try and secure safety, and I think he'll be sat in that virtual cockpit kind of talking to himself, going, I should be able to do this, I will be able to do this, and he's just got to put in the lap times. It showed purple in the first sector according to the game. We're just waiting for it to update on our telemetry as well, but I think it is going rather well in that first sector for the McLaren.
Yeah, not bad at all. 23.734 in the first sector is just a little bit down, though, on Julian Klappenbach's purple first sector time. So I wouldn't take what the track map says as, should we say, gospel, and it was a little bit of a venture into the gravel trap as well for Alfie Butcher, so he might be quietly compromised, but surely it can only be an improvement on this 108.462. Let's wait and see what the Butcher can deliver. We're carving knife out. Can he blast higher? Yes, he almost certainly can. Joins the 107 club just behind Frederick Rasmussen by a mere just under a tenth of a second. Make that 73 thousandths, TK.
Very close all in all. Thomas Ronha for his first lap goes third fastest, and that is what we like to see, the typical Thomas Ronha starting to come back into form.
Yep, certainly is. Ishmael Fassi also coming back into some of his best form as well, as now Josh Edo goes second fastest also. Here comes Ishmael Fassi. Of course, has taken the F1 Sim Racing world by storm over the last couple of seasons. Despite that purple middle sector now crossing the line, it's not necessarily the improvement that perhaps he was looking for, but he is going again at 23.6 in that first sector, and in the middle sector, according to our timing screen, at 23.7 to go purple in that last middle sector. We've got also improvements elsewhere, more green sectors from the likes of Yoni Tormela, previous race winner around this circuit, Crozen, Linton, Lewis Manley, as Yildirim also in the danger zone. Crozen moving up to 12th fastest, and now currently sat above the drop zone, but that's not safe at all, TK.
Not at all. It's close between all of our drivers. Zildirim has gone fastest in the first sector, though, 23.5 for the RB. Looking to try and make the same in the second and third. It's Green in the second, but they've got a lot of work to do still if they want to try and get safety here in Q1.
Yeah, well, coming around the final corner, can the Turk pull something out of the bag here? Of course, currently sat in the drop zone along with his teammate, but Ulash Zildirim with a great lap to set in place a second place visit, and now his teammate needs to try and do the same. Tom Manley looking to exit out of the final corner this time. The timer is at 0. We're into stoppage time, essentially, folks, and at the moment, Manley sits down the bottom. I don't think he's going to be able to get out either. He is looking like he is out. He's doom and gloom here in Q1, and so is Will Lewis. He's out of the session, and Reese Linton looking for safety also, side by side with a kick. Sauber now rushing down through towards the line. He's going to come into the pits. So it's out of qualifying for Xander Van Dyken, Reese Linton, Will Lewis, Tom Manley, and Philip Prejnader.
Very, very close between all of our drivers there, and alas, 5 of them had to go home. None of them would have wanted to be in that bottom 5, but it is the ones that maybe got caught out by just how close the track limits are here in the Netherlands. It's a very tight circuit. Sometimes traffic also will not play to the best of your abilities.
No, not at all. Well, there's going to be some things for those drivers in the bottom 5 to think about, that's for sure. And Xander Van Dyken, the former console champion, now currently sat inside that drop zone, and that is not going to sit well with him either, settling in at McLaren for tonight's venture. Philip Prejnader, of course, at the bottom as well, was, of course, once a Ferrari driver in the F1 Sim Racing World Championship. Of course, that is where the likes of Barry Burramander and Ishmael Fassi currently sit. We will take a look at the results, folks, prior to the end of the session. That's if of course, it does allow us. The timer currently ticking here at this point. We will keep you updated. But one thing's for sure, Freddie Rasmussen not missing a beat, but also clutch lap from Ulash Zildirim. I have to say that, TK. A marvellous effort, especially in the dying moments.
Absolutely spectacular. 61 thousandths off pole, and if that's not a statement of intent going forwards in towards the next few sessions, I don't quite know what could be.
Well, the top 5 all within 78 thousandths of a second as well. Thomas Ronha currently sat there. It does look like we're not going to get the results at all, so that is marvellous. We will not be able to run through who's where at the moment, folks, but we can say that we will be moving through to Q2 very shortly. Obviously, bad day for Will Lewis, obviously settling in at Williams, and we've also got the RB. A bit of a surprise, really. Tom Manley. We would probably expect Manley, Challengers champion of the past, TK, out of qualifying in Q1. It hasn't been a great start to the season for the young Brit.
No, not the way that I think he'd like to start the season. Obviously, there are a lot of rounds to go, and it's something that we've said time and time again. There's opportunities for them to try and keep pushing forwards, but you've got to start as you mean to go on, and this hasn't been the start maybe he wants to try and go on with.
No, not at all. Well, already, cars piling out of the pit lane and looking to set in place early laps straight away. Crozen, Klappenbach, Butcher, Rasmussen, Hoffland, Otmir, Ronha, Longay, Lawrence, Tormela, Edo, Fassi, Burraman, Pedreño, and Zildirim. Passed down to one driver at the moment, with Reese Linton out of the session, Joris Crozen is their sole representative. We also have 2 Alpines, though. Josh Ido, largely impressive once again, was also partnering Joni Tormela at Alpine last season. Of course, recently announced Joni Tormela's departure from the Alpine team as well, Tom Knight. One of the old guard again, much like the likes of Freddie Rasmussen. And obviously, I hope he does have a team lined up for the near future, because he'll be a big loss to the grid.
Absolutely. And, you know, one of those drivers and one of those members of staff, let's put it that way, that has been there for a very long time, has kind of come up through the ranks, but isn't just a driver. He's probably that mental and physical support as well. He's able to talk to the drivers and understand where they're coming from, and it is going to be such an incredible loss for their team.
Yeah, absolutely. Thomas Ronhaar, though, kicking us off here for the first runs here in Q2. So the Dutchman around a Dutch circuit for Kick Sauber has come close to a PSGL title already in the past. We look back, of course, at the ongoing fight with Barry Burremand that dated back a few seasons ago now, in fact, all the way back in season 33. Of course, Burremand came out on top in the stewards' room. It was all decided post-Bahrain, and Ronhaar still chasing that first PSGL PC F1 title, arguably one of the best drivers not to win it yet, in all honesty, though you could say that Fredrik Rasmussen probably sits a little bit high just based on sheer reputation and what he has certainly done in the last couple of years, certainly given the fact that he is now obviously an F1 sim racing world champion in his own right, prior to Jarno winning his 3rd. Of course, Red Bull have been on certainly a defiant and dominant run over the last 2 seasons, as now Thomas Ronhaar makes his way through the middle sector into the latter sector now. 23.5 in the first sector, still holds purple at the moment. 23.6 in the middle sector and still holds that. So it looks like it's going to be a very fiery start to qualifying here and now for Thomas Ronhaar, as he now opens up the rear wing to register the first time here onto the board here in Q2, and it's a 107.980. Surely we will see better as Pedreño goes second, well, 3rd fastest now, as Otis Lawrence moves into 2nd fastest. Josh Ido joins him as well. 2 Alpines inside the top, make that the top 4 as Nicholas Longuet goes 2nd fastest. Elsewhere, Alfie Butcher also looking for a big lap time here on this occasion. Joris Krozen sitting lowest of anybody. Butcher now goes 2nd fastest of the 108s here so far. And then we have the rest of the grid that are now in the pit lane. So approximately half the roster now setting in laps. And around a track as well. I mean, credit to Thomas Ronhaar, home circuit P1 in the early stages. But Nicholas Longuet, not fond memories of Xandvoort, I would say, TK.
No, probably not. And one that he'd be hoping maybe just to get today over and done with and maybe rewrite history somewhat. There's going to be kind of 2 thought camps going on there. Do I want to make a better impression, go on from this point, or do I just want to get today over with, focus on the rest of the calendar, and maybe hold this as a bit of a grudge match for just this circuit in particular? Yeah,
of course, many of you at home might be wondering what I'm referring to in terms of prior experiences around the Xandvoort circuit. Well, it was unfortunately Nicholas Longuet who fell foul to a strategical error in the pits, and not just once, but it was almost twice he broke a mirror around this circuit in the F1 Sim Racing World Championship, and it was a very emotional scene as well. Definitely felt he had more to offer the Ferrari team over those last 2 seasons, and definitely a raw talent, Nicholas Longuet, whose father is also a massive contributor to the world of sim racing through the Virage Gloves company that they of course run, and also not forgetting Freem from years gone by as well. So the name Longuet certainly stands tall in the realms of the F1 league racing scene and sim racing as a whole also. Ismail Fassi making his way around the track also in the Ferrari, of course now in the seat that Longuet has since departed from, and the young man who made his mark in Williams over the last 2 seasons, and I must say was very early on a near favourite for the championship crown last season, TK.
Yeah, you would have thought so, and also if you look at the standings and the results, that kind of would add to the conclusion. Sometimes though, it's just not meant to be. Sometimes the races don't always go your way. Maybe sometimes a bit of bad luck as well. It's all those things that really have to come together to sometimes make a miracle to secure that world championship.
Yeah, well, here comes Ismail Fassi now, but won't be setting in place a fast lap this time, because still weaving down the straight, so we won't see anything necessarily applicable to a fast run just yet. Just operating slightly out of sync, and I think he knows it as he now rejoins the train, and I would imagine this is going to be a 2 outlap scenario that we have already seen at play in Q1 also. His teammate Barry Burremand is also out on track and making his way through turn 1. No such weaving, but the rear energy light flashing on the back of the car. Now the weaving commences as they look to set in place a double run on this lap they're currently on here in Q2. 9 minutes to go. Ron Haar still holding all the cards up at the top, but Rasmussen, Hofland, as well as Otmir, Tormela, and Azildrim joining the Ferraris also. So we will be seeing the rest of the grid post their first times onto the board. We want to see your predictions as well, folks. If you think you have an eye on who you think is going to take provisional pole, certainly if you want to look closer to home, maybe even list out the 5 eliminees you think will be barreling out at the end of Q2. We'd love to hear from you, and we will of course read them out as time goes on. At the moment, your bottom 5, Otmir, Tormela, Fassi, Buraman and Azildrim, and I certainly don't think that's going to be the case when we hit 0 later on in the session.
Absolutely not. There's names in there that you typically wouldn't expect to go home in Q2. We said that. We saw Tom Manley go home in Q1. So sometimes the race and qualifying do throw that surprise little twist in just to keep the viewers on their seats. But alas, I think this is not the bottom 5 that we're going to go forwards with.
No, I can't imagine it will be. So now Barry Buraman makes his way down the long straights. Of course, now 10th fastest, but I wouldn't pay too much attention to those times. Folks, Ismail Fassi a little bit further up the road. Ferrari with a clear plan, as indicated as what we're seeing on screen. And we want to say as well, big shout out to Ferrari team boss at Ferrari Sim Racing, Ben Goldie. Happy birthday to him as well. Of course, has had bountiful amounts of experience in the F1 League racing scene from the realms of his years or period as team boss of Comrade Gaming, where he really cut his teeth as a team manager, and then since then becoming part of the Veloce family, taking over the Mercedes, or getting involved in terms of the Mercedes operation through the course of time, as Ulas Azildrim now sits 10th fastest at the moment. Ismail Fassi making his way around the final corners, of course, representing Ben Goldie's team here at Ferrari here this time. As now Fassi comes under the final corner, looking to improve from P13 and higher up into the rostrum, and it will be P1 here now for Ismail Fassi. So now the Ferraris are answering the call. Fassi went purple in that middle sector, and now's the turn of Barry Buraman, who initially set in that 1-2-1, not representative. The next one will be, though. Here comes the Iranian Ferrari double act at the top of the shop. 1 and 2 for Fassi and Buraman, both in the 107s, ahead of Thomas Ron Haar.
Very close, all amongst our grid at the moment. Purple sectors going left, right and centre. Ulas Azildrim also setting purple in the first sector as Julian Klaffenbach goes fastest now.
Yeah, very nice time from Julian Klaffenbach. Jana Watmir is still at the bottom at the moment, but is now making his way around the course. We also have a purple first sector here for Ulas Azildrim, who is on a rapid run at the moment, and his Q1, I must say, was excellent. That clinical last lap really made a difference. Now he's looking to make a difference here and now, and he certainly does. A 107.753 with just over 6 minutes and 20 or so to go. A great showing as now we await more times. Frederick Rasmussen goes second fastest, a 107.778 with Alfie Butcher now moving up into third. So plenty of movements elsewhere up and down the rostrum. Joris Krozen looking for a better lap. So is Jana Watmir, as we mentioned, currently rooted to the bottom and making his way down towards the chicane as we now wait for more. Here comes Nicholas Longue coming around the final bank corner here this time. Julian Klaffenbach in fourth, his teammate Thomas Ron Haar down in eighth. Now Longue looking to jump Ron Haar and maybe more, does move into fifth fastest with a 107.890.
Keep an eye on Jana Watmir though, coming through the final corner. It's going to be incredibly close to provisional top, if not the top spot. It's fourth place though for the Red Bull Racing car, 107.799, so incredibly close amongst that top 4, all split by less than half a tenth.
Yeah, really impressive. Joris Krozen now 14th fastest. That last lap not indicative of a lap good enough to stay in qualifying. Currently your bottom 5, Buraman, Pedreño, Ron Haar, Krozen and Hofland. They'll be the drivers that'll be going out should this remain the same when we hit the big 0 at the end of Q2. We're currently sat with 5 minutes and 10 to go at the moment. And at Ulas Azildrim, I must say, lots of experience where it comes to LAN events, TK. Not just in F1 Sim Racing, but also in the Rennsport R1 Championship.
Of course, and sometimes having that cross-discipline sort of experience and behind the scenes, both that LAN and kind of race at home events, as we kind of want to call it here at the moment. You have got that discipline to be able to switch between the two, but it doesn't put as much pressure on you necessarily when you then go to that LAN environment.
Yeah, absolutely right. So now they come through the final sector here, this time Ruben Pedreño on a slow run. Krozen and Hofland are the only drivers in 108s. They'll be looking to change that now in the final closing stages, when we will meet the checkered flag and decide the top 10 that will be moving through to the pole shootout for this Dutch race. And as quick as we saw the Ferraris head to the top, One of them sits on the bubble of elimination. Barry Burman in the drop zone just really goes to show that you are not safe, TK. Even if you do post a rapid time, take the fastest time initially. This is how much things can change in league racing. Just fine margins, narrow margins. I mean, if we're talking thousandths of a second, Thomas Ronnar in 7th place, 85 thousandths away from Ulas Yildirim up at the very top. That one mistake can be oh so costly.
It absolutely can. And if we look slightly further down the order, the difference between Joni Toimula and Ulas, who sat right at the top, obviously that's the difference between drop zone and the top of the standings at the moment, is only 159 thousandths of a second. So they are incredibly close margins. And I'm not surprised in the slightest that we haven't had more kind of early retirements from this session.
Well, as Yildirim has, and with a 107.753, currently sits at the moment 25 thousandths. That's a quarter of a tenth quicker than Rasmussen at the moment. Fassi has left the pit, so is Barry Burman, his teammate. So Ferrari looking to jump out a little bit early. You never know, they might even do a double run just to end the session with Tormala down in P11 as well. So that is 2 of the runners in the bottom 5, now being met by Pedreño and Hofland, so make that 4 inside the bottom 5 this time, with Joris Krozen waiting to pop out as well. Obviously Fassi on the bubble of elimination. Any misstep and he could move down into that bottom 5 also. Ferrari looking for a big run here on this occasion. Obviously it hasn't been all singing and dancing so far. Still yet to gather his first podium, Barry Burman at the moment. Despite landing pole position last time at Silverstone, doesn't necessarily mean, as they always say, as the great Bobby George, the darts player, says, it's always scoring for show, doubles for dough. And you can make the same statement about qualifying. Poles for show, it's victories for dough.
Absolutely. It's one thing to do it in qualifying, it's another thing to kind of then convert it in the race, isn't it?
Yeah, no question. Ismail Fassi, 107.898, P10 at the moment, and now on a fast run. But of course, I would say that this is more like a double run, just looking to burn off some of that additional fuel to run as light a car as possible. And that's exactly what you need to do. Fine margins, again, we speak about it, TK. Ferrari taking it that one step further. The double run is something that we've seen a lot more of, I would say, this season, just to ensure that car is as light as they can make it.
Yeah, you essentially put the car into a minimum fuel load that you're allowed to take out of the garage, and then you take 2 laps to burn off as much as you can, and then in theory, as soon as you hit that final flying run, your car is as light as it's legally allowed to be. You'll hit the timing being, you'll have the lightest car, you'll in theory go the fastest you possibly can go, providing no mistakes, and then still, in theory again, make it home back to the garage.
Yeah, well, let's see whether Fassi can improve. Obviously, he won't be improving on this lap. We'll expect the next one to be distinctly quicker. We'll keep our eyes on the timing screen, though, to see who is improving. We've got a slight timing delay on our laptop screens at the moment, folks, just due to the sheer broadcast nature of how I'm sort of transponding the data at the moment, but we will keep you updated as best we can as time rolls on. Ismail Fassi making his way through turn 1 this time, and looking to fly it through towards the bank corner, and that early run up through towards the first bank corner, so narrow, TK, and any misstep on the brakes, that barrier becomes very close indeed.
Well, Daniel Ricciardo knows that all too well, doesn't he, after seasons gone by, but I think the main issue drivers will have with this is when we get into that race situation that they'll try and go 2, maybe 3 wide, especially on the opening few laps, and that is a sum that doesn't go well here in Xandvoort.
No, not at all. Fassi, though, up on his time, personal best in the first sector, 23.617. Here to open things up, and now heading down the long straight where DRS will now be open. The next chicane will now present either a risk or reward opportunity, and flicking the rear out on that Ferrari now as he plants the throttle down to the floor, and it's looking like another really smart middle sector time here from Ismail Fassi. Also a personal best from Barry Burman. He's quicker than his teammate in the first sector. 23.6 in the middle for Fassi. Purple in the first sector though for Fredrik Rasmussen. So it's not over yet for Red Bull. They could clinch top spot. Fassi moves up a little bit, up into 7th place. What about his teammate? Barry Burman also coming through the middle sector, coming out of that middle sector into sector 3 out of the chicane, up a little bit on his time, but it might come down to sheer minimal time gaps at this very late stage. We're at 0 this time. Checkered flag is now out. Last gasp here for Barry Burman, the Iranian second fastest. Great time there from Burman this time. Now what about the Great Dane, Fredrik Rasmussen? Purple in the first sector, green in the middle. Fastest here at the end of his run, and that's a 107.676 to displace Ulas Yildirim.
Yeah, Thomas Ronhar's fallen out. He sits in P11 at the moment, cannot go quicker. Everybody else in the drop zone, though, in Tormila, Crozen, Hofland, couldn't improve enough to try and drag themselves out of that bottom 5. Pedreño as well, also caught up by the barest of margins, 0.008 of a second. Those of you watching last week will remember that number for a very different reason.
Absolutely right, but it's Fredrik Rasmussen now fastest here at Xandvoort. It's a Red Bull 1-2, could be an onus of things to come with Jarno Opmeer in second place as well. No doubt keen to bounce back after the repercussions of the pit lane entry last time. Well, he is now second fastest and will be heading through to the final session of qualifying to decide pole position. It's Fredrik Rasmussen, though, your P1 sits here in Q2 with Ulasses Dildrim down in third place. Alfie Butcher, then Barry Burremand make up the top 5. Josh Edo, Otis Lawrence, Nicholas Longay, then Julian Klaffenbach, grand display, and faster than his own teammate who's now in the drop zone. Ishmael Fassi also making it through. Also 2 Ferraris heading into Q3 for the pole shootout. We say goodbye to Thomas Ronhaar, Ruben Pedreño, Yoni Tormela, Duncan Hofland, and Joris Crozen, folks. So a few shocks there, TK, and I have to tell you, Thomas Ronhaar being out, that is a major shock.
Yeah, I was really surprised by that. He was sat about 7th place when the final laps were starting to hit. We saw Fasci displace him to 8th, and he just kept falling with all the lap times that were being put in. It was Longay and then another and another that fell him all the way down to P11, and it was just the most unfortunate of circumstances that he couldn't find more time at the final moment of asking.
Well, we're now moving through to Q3, and this is where we like to get your predictions as well, folks, to get them in the live chat. Who is taking pole here at Xandvoort? That is the major question. Of course, Barry Burremand already a pole sitter this season. Also, we've had poles from Otis Lawrence twice over. We've already had 3 different pole sitters in the first 3 races of the campaign. Two different pole sitters in the first 3 races. Otis Lawrence taking the first 2 with poles at both Brazil and Texas. Only one of them meaning a race win, which was back at Brazil, of course, in that real high, intense contest with Barry Burremand also. I'm seeing some of the predictions come in. We got Mango saying Freddie. Freddie, quite a few of you saying Freddie at the moment. Red Bull 1-2 says Ivan 07. Otis Pole says Steven Sabino. TK on pole. I can get on board with that, says Grizzy Glizzy. I can get on board with that, TK. Janu says Tazismas as well. Otis might take pole or Fred, says Jordan. Oh, Otis says one more. Jarno says Tazismas 19. And there we have it. Fassi also has been tipped also. Freddie for Art Gettinger. Quite the eclectic group there. We have got a combination of Freddie, Jarno, Otis, you know, quite a distinct number of names, and also Fassi as well. It just goes to show where people think the class currently sits in F1 sim racing at the moment.
It's really split in everything that kind of stands, well, amongst the grid, but also amongst the fan base as well. Nobody quite knows which way it's going to go. I mean, even if you speak to the drivers, I don't quite know where everybody thinks they're going to end up. But I don't think if we spoke to Ronhaar earlier, we would have expected him to say, oh yeah, I'm going to be out in Q2. Don't quite have the pace to make it through to the final qualifying session. So it's really mixed grid at the moment, but that's what we absolutely love about it.
Yeah, slight lock-up there from Julian Klaffenbach on this fast run as well. Very keen to get this one written into the books. Barry Burremand and Ulasses Dildrim still on out laps at the moment. Going out a little bit later. Klaffenbach earlier than most. The first sector time now coming through according to the game itself. It's currently saying purple, and no surprises because, of course, this is the only flying lap we're currently seeing out on track at the moment. Big thank you for tipping me as well for pole position. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be possible here tonight, but I promise I will improve everybody. So no problem about that. Me and TK, definitely the best teammate partnership you've ever seen in league racing. As now we see Klaffenbach make his way down through towards the next chicane now, putting the foot to the floor. Klaffenbach, I must say, impressive, TK. Out-qualifying your teammates is obviously a majorly important factor here, and he's done that. I mean, taking down Ronhaar is quite a major feat.
It's always going to be your biggest challenge as a race car driver. You have to beat your teammate. And I don't think Klaffenbach was maybe expecting to do that here this afternoon. Maybe he wasn't even expecting to end up in Q3 as well. But he's done both of those feats. But he's now got to try and convert that as we head into the race. He'll start at least one place higher than his teammate Thomas Ronhaar. Obviously, that'll be decided when we get to the end of this Q3 session. But he's got to make that gap and the starting position advantage really work in his favour.
Definitely does. It's a 108.046 for Klaffenbach at the moment, though, and we have seen 107s already, so I don't think for 1 minute that is going to stand the test of time, at least for now, unless he's looking to go out on another run. Once again, Ulas Azildrim, as we can now just see, warming up the car once again, doing what Ferrari have basically done also, just trying to get the tyres warmed up and in a better window for yet another lap. And just keeping my eyes on the prize here and now. No improvements really for Julian Klaffenbach right now, so I don't think it's going to be an improvement lap the next time round, so we will wait and see as to whether he decides to come out again. But Ulas Azildrim, largely impressive, a Q3 visit once again for the young man. Though it was a DNF back at Brazil to open up the season, did not actually take part back at Texas and was outside the top 10 as well back at Silverstone. So whilst he's had some early struggles, this could be the right time to essentially fight back here.
It certainly could, and the track will really lend itself to maybe going on that comeback draw, because it's a circuit that wants to be driven fast, and actually really tends itself to quite a few overtaking opportunities. We've got turn 1, turn 3, we head into 8, 9, 10, that sequence 13, and even into the long elongated kind of right-hander of 13 and 14. There's lots of opportunities for a car just to stick a nose down the inside.
Absolutely right. Otis Lawrence, purple in the first 2 sectors, now looking to topple Klaffenbach as Frederick Rasmussen across the line to go third fastest. Otis Lawrence, though, fastest with the first 107. And it's not a bad one either, a 107.691 to kick us off. Now that's far more representative. Of course, Ido now third fastest, but bear in mind, these early runs may not be representative. Definitely not the case if you're Rasmussen, Ozilderim, Burremand, or, well, indeed, at the moment, Jana Watmere, who now goes fourth fastest, as we now wait for more times to come across. Nicolas Longuet will be next to 26.7 in the first sector, 27.8 in the middle. Probably, much like the others, not necessarily representative. The next lap is what counts, and indeed it will be. Sixth fastest here for Nicolas Longuet. As now we see further purple sector times. Frederick Rasmussen with a 23.505. And I just want to say this, both Ulas Azildrim, as now he goes fastest to the top now this time. They're matching purple first sectors to the 1000th, TK.
This incredible racing or incredible qualifying that we're seeing here in the Netherlands, and it's exactly the type of competition you want. It's fair qualifying, it's fair racing, but it's so close margins. It's absolutely incredible.
It certainly is. Here comes Rasmussen now to topple Ulas Azildrim. They may have matched in the first sector, but Jana Watmere has stolen the purple away from them. His teammate with a 107.641 in the early offings of Q3 now sits on top. Jarno looking to knock him down a peg or two. The man, the fastest man in any pit lane, is now making his way across the line and fastest here at the start of Q3 with a 107.603, and just under, or so 38 thousandths between himself and the Dane. His teammate Frederick Rasmussen in second place. Ulas Azildrim in third. Otis Lawrence now down to fourth after those first runs. We have Josh Ido in the pits at the moment. And it looks like that, in accordance to our time history, we haven't got any drivers inside that third sector at the moment. We're just waiting for those new laps now to come across the line. Barry Burrman, though, coming out into the final sector, but on a slow run. But Jana Watmere with first blood here at Xandvoort so far.
I think he'd love to start from the front at his home circuit, of course. It's one that I think every motorsport fan would love to start from the front in a race as competitive as this. I'm sure if he got the chance to do it in real life in a bigger series, he would be equally as overjoyed. He's taken it, I think, a couple of times before in the Netherlands, but it will always be special to start from the front of your home Grand Prix.
Yep, of course, absolutely. I mean, that is the mission for any driver, ultimately, is to be the fastest man out on track. That is 101 of racing in itself. Get your predictions in, everybody. Is Jana Watmere going to reign as the pole sitter for the Dutch Grand Prix? Let us know in the live chat. Jay Benham reckons that lap is confirmed. Jana were top three. Could be right. Keep the comments coming in, folks. We really want to see them. Blake Ellerwood saying RB. I'm guessing Red Bull 1-2. I can sense it. It's definitely a possibility. Rasmussen could yet topple his teammates. So let's wait and see. Give us your comments, folks. We really do want to hear from you. Top three in the stewards book, says Jordan. Goodness me. This is unbelievable. I got to say, there's been a lot of controversy blown out of that moment, of course, last week. And while, of course, we've got some passionate fans here that tune in and follow the likes of Jana Watmere and also Frederick Rasmussen and also Otis Lawrence now, as well as a fledgling superstar. Obviously, Jarno isn't going to let that moment define him, and neither will anyone as a driver, of course, an outright professional. The one thing we can say for sure, regardless of where stewards' decisions went, that without a doubt was the most iconic moment in league racing history, TK.
Oh, for certain. And if you look at the clicks, the views that it gained and attracted on social media, I don't think it's something that we've seen before. Probably something that we now will never see again. But it was not just the fact that he did it and won the race, it was the fact that he did it quite possibly on what is the biggest stage in F1 sim racing outside of the official championship.
Yeah, absolutely. Julian Klaffenbach into the pits now, but as soon as he comes in, Ulas Yildirim comes out as well with Otis Lawrence. Barry Burman also venturing out, so in come the final laps. The final lap soiree, and it looks like we're going to be seeing double runs to end the session as well. 3 minutes to go here in the session. Get your predictions in, folks. We want to hear from you. Who is taking pole position here at Xandvoort? I'm going to ask you as well, TK. Where do you see this one going?
I think we're going to see a sneaky lap come from Ulas Yildirim right at the end. I mean, at the moment, Red Bull have got 1 and 2 locked down, but if we've seen anything from Ulas over the last 2 sessions, he somehow is able to try and pull that lap out of thin air. I think we're going to see it here again tonight.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it's going to be extraordinary as we now watch as Ulas Yildirim makes his way into the chicane. It would be a wonderful way for Ulas Yildirim to muster in his first pole position of the season. So let's wait and see. Here we go, coming through the final 2 corners. Ulas Yildirim looking to fire up his RB for one last gasp attempt at a potential pole lap, though coming across the line he is going to have time for one more run should he want to. And now coming down through towards turn 1, let's see what Ulas Yildirim can bring to the table. Now making his way through the first corner apex, back on the power now as he looks to climb uphill and into turns 2, 3, 4, and then later along the top of the course. It looks like he's already slowed down already. So he's looking again to burn a little bit more fuel, has he? I would say he's still going pretty quick, though still weaving on the straights. I think this is definitely another provisional run, TK.
Are we seeing 2 provisional runs before we see a flying run? Are they trying to get those cars as light as they possibly can? I mean, we've seen 1 installation lap before. I haven't seen a second kind of practice. I don't want to call it a practice lap, but a practice lap essentially. Yeah, a triple run.
A triple run, folks. You've seen it here first. We're making history week on week here at PSGL as now Ulas Yildirim makes his way down the long stretch and in towards the final chicane. And yes, I believe it is. He's currently weaving from left to right, just looking to heat those tyres back up and then coming through the final couple of corners in the RB this time, because the team based in Faenza in Italy, the former home of the Minardi team as well from years gone by. Yes, I know a little bit about that, having managed Minardi at the moment on my F1 manager save. As we now watch them fly down through towards turn 1 here. Ulas Yildirim now this time. This has got to be a fast run with 42 seconds left in the session. And Ulas looking to keep this car as light as possible, and so much more commitment on show. Coming through the first sector and now back on the power over the top of the hill. Currently sat 3rd fastest at the moment, and 38,000 separating the 2 Red Bulls. Well, it's 800s separating Ulas Yildirim and Jarno Opmeer at the moment. Fine margins at the moment between the top 4. 88,000 separating Otis Lawrence and Jarno Opmeer. That's the time that covers the entirety of the top 4 right now. Ulas Yildirim, the Turk, in the RB, looking to bring them yet further grandeur. Of course, we mentioned AlphaTauri winning here twice before in PSGL. The first time around was Joni Tormela, who was evicted earlier on in qualifying, and Jake Benham also in an AlphaTauri, winning previously as well. Maybe a slight error there from Ulas coming through the chicane, but it looks like he's okay. Looking for an improvement. The first sector was a personal best, I can tell you. It's purple in the middle for Otis Lawrence. Green in the first sector currently as well, though, for Ulas Yildirim, who now goes across the line. Will not improve at all. Julian Klaffenbach with an improved run also, so we got plenty of times to come in. Otis Lawrence to the top this time as well, as now we await Klaffenbach to cross the line. Will remain in 3rd fastest. Purple in the first sector. Now this time for Frederick Rasmussen. And now with 99 thousandths to the good, looking to jump up from P4 and higher. Burroman goes 2nd. Ido goes 2nd. It's now Alpine 1 and 2. Rasmussen can only go 3rd. Jarno Opmeer across the line remains 5th. And now Longe into 9th. Here comes Butcher. And that was definitely an ascension from Alfie Butcher. Where did he sit? 3rd fastest. It's Otis Lawrence. A triple dream this season. 3 pole positions for the young Welshman, as he would say, Cymru and Bydd. It's Otis Lawrence on top here with Josh Edo. Alpine lock out the front row. Butcher in third. Rasmussen in fourth. Barry Burmand in fifth with Jarno Opmeer in sixth. Ismail Fassi in seventh. Ulas Azilrim in eighth. Julian Klaffenbach in ninth. And Nicholas Longue in 10th. Alpine locking out the front row. It's a trio of pole positions for Otis Lawrence this season. A remarkable feat. TK, how on earth can you cover that one? Otis on fire over one lap.
Absolutely fantastic lap from Lawrence there to take a pole position away. One thing I wanted to just bring up to the fans at home that may not have been able to see this. Fasci and Ido both set identical purple sectors in the middle in the second sector. So at exactly the same amount, well, exactly the same pace, and both of them technically got a purple second sector.
It's extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary. Fassi, of course, with the 23.562, 23.562 for Ido in the middle sector also. So that's where the two were shared. And as you so rightly say, it was just a sprinkling as well, a smattering of purple with, RB as well in the first instance. Obviously a great effort elsewhere in the order. I mean, Ulas Azilrim still up there for dancing. Alfie Butcher, though, third fastest. A great lap from the Butcher here. Who I must say, it's kind of gone a little bit under the radar through the course of qualifying, Tom.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been something that I think he's been trying to find that pace and maybe the competitiveness that he had in seasons gone by, especially when we look back to the feats that he had at F1 Sim Racing back at Austria a couple of years ago. I believe you were on the commentary box for that one. But he's had these fantastic flourishes and moments that he just shows this incredible talent, but the consistency isn't nailed on.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is pretty much, I would say, the actual thing. It's moments for Alfie Butcher. I mean, if he can string something together, he is so dangerous, isn't he, on a race day? We've seen so many great performances from him in the past, no less than on his debut appearance, his debut season, where we saw him take victory at Yas Marina on the same occasion where we saw Frederick Rasmussen go on to take his first world title at Abu Dhabi. But yeah, it's going to be extraordinary. Folks, in the meantime, if you've just joined us, we can, of course, provide you with Brendan Lee's Hot Lap Guide of Xandvoort.
We are here in Xandvoort for round 4 of the PSGL Championship. High speed, flowy, precision, absolutely needed to maximize a lap time potential around here. I think in qualifying, it's one of many drivers' favorite. It's really difficult, really rewarding to hook up a lap here. But come race day, unless you're in P1, it's probably not the favorite. It's really difficult to overtake around this circuit. As you can see, very narrow between the white lines, very high speed, producing a lot of dirty air, and it's just going to be difficult to overtake. That will open up many opportunities in the pit stop window to take that track position, so watch out for that, how the strategy unfolds. The absolute driving style around here is super on the nose. Get the car rotating and fight the rear if you need to. Any understeer around this circuit will absolutely obliterate your opportunity to go for pole position here. So watch out for drivers rotating the car on the nose out of the final corner. And this has been your lap preview here in Xandvoort.
Yes, we do thank Brendan Lee for providing us with that hot lap insight as always, as we now look to race around the 4.259 kilometre. That's 2.6 miles in length. The Xandvoort circuit based in North Holland here in the Netherlands, and it offers a spicy variation in terms of cornering. Overtaking is definitely a form of luxury though around here, TK, despite the DRS zones. Of course, we have two of them down the long straights. Of course, the main straight coming out of turn 14 in towards turn 1, and there's also turn 10 down towards turn 11.
Yeah, exactly. It may look like a circuit that sometimes really benefits overtaking. Obviously, we've got a lot of heavy braking zones to try and navigate, but actually when we break down that middle DRS zone, it's not long at all. You've really got to set that up all the way back in turn 7. You go through 7, 8, 9 into 10, and that's where you've really got to try and make your move. But you're setting it up from so far back that it takes that forethought to really try and make anything of the track here in Xandvoort.
Yeah, well, we can take a look at the last results and obviously give you guys a little bit of an insight as to how the championship has pretty much gone so far. Well, we'll take a look back at Britain anyway. Freddie Rasmussen, your race winner last time out after Jana Watmere received a penalty, post-race penalty, due to the pit lane victory that was deemed unsportsmanlike by the PSGL stewards and was handed then a penalty that dropped him down to 4th. Ron Haar moved up to 2nd as well. Bear in mind, Otis Lawrence also receiving a penalty for the initial move on Frederick Rasmussen and dropped down to 5th as a result, with Nicholas Longuet also in 3rd. So Ron Haar and Longuet bringing in their penalties, their first podiums of the season. That's the second time I've done that tonight. We've also had Barry Burraman down in 6th also for Ferrari, with Benham in 7th, Tormala in 8th. And then further back, Klaffenbach in 9th. Danny Berejnay, last of the top 10 runners, and will clinch 1 point after finishing in 10th place. Just said Istvan Pukki, his former teammate at Mercedes, incidentally. This is how the standings look. Of course, off the back of that last race, we now have 3 drivers sat at the top, with Rasmussen on 32, joined at the hip with Lawrence and Otmere. Of course, Rasmussen leading on countback at the moment, just due to the sheer results he's taken in the first 3 races, with Longuet down in 4th as well, with Ron Haar in 5th. Burraman 6th. Butcher then in behind him in 7th, Carreton 8th, Fassi 9th, Edo 10th, Benham in 11th, and then we have Berejnay, Pukki, Klaffenbach, Tormala, Linton, Crozen, Hofland, Ozildrim and Hardy. The bottom 2 still yet to clinch their first points of the championship just yet. And of course the team standings unfolds a little bit like this. Red Bull on top with both Jarno and Freddie leading the way on 64 points, ahead of Alpine on 39. Further back, Ferrari on 20 with Aston Martin 19, 18 for McLaren, 15 for Kick Sauber, Williams, then Haas, then Mercedes, with VCarb still chasing their first points. But could Ulas Ozildrim pull together their first points of the season, giving where he started, Tom Manley, with a little bit of an uphill climb to find anyway. But Ulas Ozildrim, a great opportunity for RB, or VCarb as they are called here in Now TK in PSGL. They've got a great opportunity to take those first points in this round at Xandvoort.
Yeah, absolutely. They got to try and benefit from what is going to be a half-decent kind of start. They've got work to do, and I think quite a few teams will also have work to do in that opening stint. Obviously, Tom Manley all the way down in P19, but his teammate, who stands just a little bit higher, Ulas starting from P8, maybe will have the lay of the land.
Yeah, so that is how the team standings work. So a reminder of the season's grid as to the drivers and how they are going to fare for the season ahead, and as they were at the start of the campaign as well. Otis Lawrence and Danny Berejnay, teammates at Alpine. Duncan Hofland and Nicholas Longuet, teammates at Aston Martin. Barry Burraman and Ismail Fassi now together at Ferrari, with Rhys Linton and Joris Crozen at Haas. Thomas Ron Haar, as well as Julian Klaffenbach in Kick Sauber. Alvaro Carreton and Ruben Pedreño at Williams, and all Spanish affair there, with Tom Manley and Ulas Ozildrim in RB. Then we have Red Bull with Jana Watmere and also Frederick Rasmussen. Istvan Pukki returns at Mercedes, of course, has left the team in actuality, but still remains with them for PSGL alongside Lucas Blakely for this season. Of course, isn't with us tonight, though. Alfie Butcher and Jake Benham also at the McLaren team. Of course, Benham not here this evening, and we can actually run through tonight's grid as we see it. PCF1 lineup here for this evening's race at Xandvoort. We have Otis Lawrence and Josh Edo. Of course, Edo stepping in for Berejnay at Alpine, Duncan Hofland and Nicholas Longuet at Aston Martin, Barry Burraman, Ismail Fassi at Ferrari, Rhys Linton, Joris Crozen at Haas. We also have Thomas Ron Haar and Julian Klaffenbach at Kick Sauber, with Will Lewis stepping in as well alongside Ruben Pedreño. Of course, Lewis stepping in place of Alvaro Carreton, who has been on a reasonable run so far this season. Tom Manley and Ulas Ozildrim in RB this time as always. Jana Watmere and Frederick Rasmussen also in at Red Bull as normal too. Istvan Pukki this time joined up by Joni Tormala with no Blakely here this evening, and Xander Van Dijken stepping in for Jake Benham alongside Alfie Butcher here and now. And of course, I can imagine Wilson Hughes will be watching on and hoping that his team pulls out the goods also. But we're going to be in for a real treat, folks. It's going to be a great race tonight, as it will be all season long. Netherlands marks our last stop on the first stint before we hit break week for August 20th. We then head back to Red Bull Ring for round 5 on August 27th. We have China on September 3rd, with Belgium also on September 10th at Spa-Francorchamps. Then on round 8 we have Jeddah, and then Qatar for round 9. We have another break week after that on October 1st, and then Bahrain for round 10, with Australia round 11, Mexico for round 12, Vegas the penultimate round for round 13, and the fireworks will then rain here on November 5th as we get set for the grand finale in Abu Dhabi, where we could yet see a title decided. A spicy calendar, TK.
Very spicy indeed, and one that I think a lot of people at home will be looking forward to seeing the racing action that is going to partake in it. I mean, I'm really looking forward to that middle stint of the season, Austria-China, those two tracks back to back, completely differing ways to try and take them. It's going to be absolutely fantastic to watch.
Yeah, of course, Jarno Watmere, a 6-time PSGL PCF1 champion, a 7-time PSGL champion overall, if you include the one console championship that he has managed to muster, and also champions Lucas Blakely, and also, we cannot forget, Barry Burremand as well, who managed to win it in the stewards' room after that really controversial finale at Bahrain, if you remember, a few seasons ago. But now we're going to be turning tail, heading to Xandvoort this time. And as you can see, folks, looks like I'm not sure whether it's my eyes here tricking me here, TK. It looks rather damp out there.
It is looking rather overcast, especially being so close to the coastline. We do quite often see the rain start to really sweep into that second or the middle sector of the circuit. We never know quite where the weather's going to turn.
Yeah, well, we'll soon wait and see. It's very cloudy over the skies at the moment, so sit tight. We'll now wait and see what is going to come from it. Leave us your predictions in the chat as well. Folks, we want to hear from you. Who's taking victory here at PSGL, here at Xandvoort? It's going to be one hellacious race. Will it be the case that Jarno Watmere captures a third race win to accompany the 3 F1 Sim Racing World titles that he has already mustered? Let's wait and see. It's going to be an audacious lunge down in towards turn 1, though. Alpine with 2 cars on the front row. How much of a difference does that make, TK?
I think it's going to be that teamwork, the camaraderie that we have between the two drivers. Can they work together to try and defend in towards the first corner, but then carry that speed through 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? But who's going to have the favour drive? The inside line tends to be that little bit quicker off the line here.
Definitely does. I'm seeing some comments in the live chat. Jake Benham saying Yoni dub up the Yoni. We also have some Jarno names as well. Who else are we predicting in the live chat? Let me know, folks. Obviously, keep them coming. We want to hear from you. Barry Burremand has been tipped. Also, more tips for Jarno Watmere. TK for the win. Crashing out, George. Maybe. Blake. Who knows? W for Frederick, says Magnus as well. We'll not be surprised to see that. Let's see who else we got. Jarno for redemption. He's going for the win, says Tactics Rules. Could well be the case. We've seen it several times before where he has bounced back in the past. But now as we watch, as the lights are all lit here at Xandvoort, and PSGL is back underway as we put pedal to the metal, and it's go, 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 and a very messy start for Alfie Butcher, and Rasmussen moves into third. Otis Lawrence leads the way with Josh Ito just in behind, also of course former teammate to Freddie Rasmussen, and sat in second place here on lap 1 of 36. Butcher now down in fourth with Barry Burremand for company on the run out of the back corner, and we've got side by side with Ulas Zilderim on the run up across the top of the circuit, and Jarno Watmere coming under fire from Julian Klaffenbach further back as well. They're wheel to wheel, dipping down through this right-hander. Who's bravest? Jarno Watmere is. He remains in P8 ahead of Klaffenbach.
Yeah, real mix on the tyres from the race start here. Half medium, half hard, as Klaffenbach does get the better of Watmere. That could be the tyre advantage as the Kicksauber now want to be followed by his teammate Thomas Ronhard. Tried to swoop into the outside, didn't quite have the traction on the tyres, but I think he's going to go again here.
Well, how about this? Two rivals coming together. Ronhard and Jarno Watmere once again dicing around the track on their home turf. Here at Xandvoort, they are manacled together inside the top 10, in the bottom 2 places inside the top 10. It hasn't been an easy start for the Flying Dutchman. He's now got Ronhard all over his tail as they now storm down through to begin lap 2 of 36. They now start to fan out. No changes up at the front end as now they stay. They remain the status quo on the run up through the first sector now this time. Ronhard lurching out a little bit wider as now Ruben Pedreño goes wheel to wheel with Joris Krozen and up into 12th place.
Thomas Ronhard's finally got the better of Jarno Watmere, went to the outside as they headed into the third corner. 4th, 5th and 6th will start to tend itself, but the medium tyres are really firing up well here. Watmere could fall continually until those hard tyres start to become the better of the 2 compounds our driver started on.
Yeah. Very easily could. Ulas Zilderim all over the back of Ismail Fassi at the moment. 2.5 tenths to 3 tenths at the moment of the realm. Currently sat P7 is the Turkish driver with Ismail Fassi, the Spaniard, still occupying P6 behind his own teammate Ferrari. In a perfect position, really. They can just watch the race unfold. Of course, they've had a few mishaps occur prior times racing in the F1 Sim Racing World Championship at this very circuit, where strategy has not gone to plan and where incorrect tyres have been put on in ever-changing conditions. I can tell you, folks, we're not expecting any rain at all. as we now watch them come around the final corners here this time to begin lap 3 very soon. Otis Lawrence, the Welshman, still on top as he was at the end of qualifying. Now charging down through towards turn 1. It's Frederick Rasmussen with the fastest lap here so far. Here comes Julian Klappenbach. A look up the inside on Ulas Özildirim this time, not pulling the plug on Özildirim's run in P7 at the moment, but a few warning shots fired already, TK.
Absolutely. Just reminding drivers in front that they are still battling the car behind. They've got to keep in the mirrors, try and maybe do a few off-pitting moves, especially as we head through that second sector. It's so easy to get it wrong. Ride that curb on the outside like a skateboard, and you do quite often go skating into the gravel.
Well, Klappenbach has definitely become a thorn in the side of many so far, and down the inside straight away on the run through turn 8 now, and it's wheel to wheel between himself and Ulas Özildirim, who is keen to fight him every which way, coming out of turns 9 and turns 10, and the RB still remains wheel to wheel with the Kicksauber. Back comes Klappenbach, determined as ever. Later on the brakes, who's going to be bravest? The lock up there from Klappenbach, and into the gravel goes Ulas Özildirim, and through will go Thomas Ronhaar as a consequence of the manoeuvre. Obviously off the back of Klappenbach and Özildirim coming together, Ronhaar now sails into P7 on home turf here at Xandvoort.
What a move from Ronhaar. Must have seen the calamity that happened in front of him. Really wanted to try and take advantage, as does Jarno Opmeer now. In towards the first corner, gets the better of Klappenbach. Maybe these hard tyres are starting to fire up after all.
They certainly are. Opmeer now up into 9th place on hard tyres, the highest of the hard tyre compounds at the moment, and inside the top 10 with Klappenbach now rooted down in P10 with Nicolas Longuet in P11, just watching in the midst of this P11 position, highest of those inside that bottom 10 at the moment, higher than Ruben Pedreño. It's quite the feisty opening stint to this race already here on lap 4 of 36, but some drivers becoming a little bit more disconnected from others. Of course, Opmeer now has to try and close this 7/10 of a second gap to Ulas Özildirim, try and remain within the wheel tracks, make this hard tyre strategy work for him. Obviously, he'll be going a little bit longer on this strategy, you'd imagine. Obviously, those on the mediums will be boxing a little bit sooner as they come down into the chicane this time around. Frederick Rasmussen also getting closer to the back of the two Alpines. He's riding that rear wing on his former teammate Josh Edo. The Welshman could come under fire. It's a double Welsh affair up at the front of the field at the moment, but now a Great Dane is going to come in and put a spoke in between them. Is he going to make a move this time on Josh Edo? Is he going to simply wait behind? He's happy to wait in behind as Thomas Ronhaar takes the fastest lap of the race.
Otis has got a key decision to make here. Is he going to try and support his teammate? Does he help Josh out to try and avoid any pressure from Freddie or even Alfie further back? Or does he maybe go, you know what, you're on your own, and shoot off into the distance like we've seen in races gone past, where Otis can just put his foot down and somehow that car sticks to the circuit like rails?
Yeah, could be problems here for Ismail Fassi because he is dropping further and further back from his own teammate Barry Burremand at the moment. Thomas Ronhaar still very much there, and of course Burremand and Ronhaar know each other very well. I alluded to the championship battle back in season 33 as now Klappenbach now once again comes side by side with Jarno Opmeer. Opmeer just backing away from it and just allowing Klappenbach to continue. Of course, Opmeer doesn't really want to get drawn into too many issues here. Of course, by and large, Opmeer can make his places through the pit stop, and this is something we have seen time on time from Opmeer. A masterclass in terms of strategies over previous races we have had in PSGL. Not always does he ascend purely on track. A lot of it is done in the pits.
And that's what separates a good driver, but also one that has a fantastic team in support from them as well. They'll know what the strategy is going in. They maybe have adapted it on the fly. Should we have maybe expected rain, but they knew where they were going from the get-go. They're going to go hard till the end, or at least till they can go on to set the mediums, and that's where they'll make all their positions up.
Yeah, see, it's no surprise to see the mediums flourishing in this early stage. Now we watch them come through the bank corners. At the moment, still Lawrence out in front for nearly 4.5 tenths. Now dropping down to 4.25. Still between Edo and Lawrence right now, but they have remained certainly pretty, I would say, equal right through the course of this race so far. Lap 6 of 36, still 30 to go of the round. Barry Burremand still within 6 tenths or so of Alfie Butcher, with Fassi still further back. Also Ferrari remaining in 5th and 6th as they have been all race long, with Thomas Ronhaar down in 7th now, also just trying to close onto the back of Ismail Fassi. Özildirim in 8th place with Klappenbach for company. Opmeer inside the top 10 places, is in a points finish at the moment, but obviously we'll want to try and raise the stakes and go a little bit higher than where he sits right now. Currently leading the championship along with 2 other drivers. 3 drivers currently sat on 32 points in the Drivers' Championship at the moment. Of course, Otmir want to reign supreme at the very top, chasing that 7th PCF1 title. But can he do it this time in arguably the most competitive grid, or the competitive season I think we will see, I think, in league racing history? Now they come through on lap 7 of 36. It is still Lawrence who leads the way.
Certainly is, and I think it will be for a very long time. He looks comfortable and always does look comfortable in the lead of this race, and especially now he's got the support of his teammate sat in P2, who can essentially do the defending for the Red Bull, the McLaren, the Ferraris that sit behind them. I mean, Ron Hart's starting to make impressions on this race. He's up about 4 positions from where he started down in P11, but he's started to plateau as we've reached the kind of middle stage of this tyre stint.
Yeah, coming out turns 9 and turns 10 this time. Frederick Rasmussen back on the power, just keeping within DRS range of the 2 Alpines that sit in front as the rear wing slams shut on the Red Bull coming out of the chicane section. Here this time, Jarno Otmir currently down in P10 still, and just dropping a little bit further back from Julian Klappenbach at the moment, but keenly enough, Nicolas Longuet not necessarily closing either. It still remains approximately 7.5 to 7 3/4 tenths between them as of now as they cross the line to begin lap 8 of 36. As they now come through the first corner once again and will climb the hill once more before reaching the back corners. Now it's Lawrence and Ido disputing up at the top, offering Alpine a fantastic olive branch here to really close the gap to Red Bull at the moment in terms of the team's championship, because Red Bull are currently holding all the cards. Alpine aren't that far away in the championship, TK.
They aren't at all, and they'll be hoping for a good result here. They've got the advantage, so to speak. They've got that up step, but they've got to convert it, and this is something we've talked about long and many times over the course of races gone past, not only this season but seasons gone past it. It's one thing to take pole, to lock out the front row. It's another thing to maybe overcome the elements of what you aren't expecting, because if people are just tuning in, there's no rain expected in this race, although the track temperature is falling and has fallen a couple of degrees since we started.
Yeah, no, it certainly has. It's I think at the moment track temperature currently sitting at approximately 28 degrees at the moment. Air temperature 19 degrees. And still with all 20 cars out on track, though, Philip Progenator still rooted to the back in his Mercedes as they now fly down through towards turn 1 once again, and it's a lock-up once more, this time for Josh Ido. Still on the tail at the moment of Otis Lawrence right now. The gaps, though, equal pretty much, so they have changed a little bit now coming through turns 2 and turns 3 between Lawrence, Ido and Rasmussen. With further back, Ulas Azildarim still on the back of Thomas Ronhart at the moment, who is still maintaining his kick Sauber in 7th place, but more importantly, after that fantastic move earlier on from Ronhart, clinical enough not only to get past his own teammate, but also taking full advantage of the moment that Ulas Azildarim had into the gravel. And it's moments like that, especially when you have a grid as tight as this, TK, that can really make the difference in terms of where you finish points-wise.
It certainly can, and it's sometimes the barest of margins that mean you go home with points and sometimes don't as well. But we mentioned a few drivers during qualifying that did find those gravel traps nice and early. I think the notable ones were Thomas Ronhart and I believe Reece Linton as well in the first time of asking in Q1. Just found himself off through turn 10. So they've learned from those mistakes. They are going to be able to bounce back from them. But I think from qualifying to the race, they'll always have that element of caution as to what they're going to do. But we have got the pit stops coming in. Josh Ido for Alpine.
Yeah, the Welshman in first for Alpine this time. And as you can see, the pit crew are ready and currently the only team ready. We did see a few lockups from Josh Ido right at the get-go. So going for that early jump onto the hard tyre, which will obviously aim to get him to the end. Let's wait and see how he fares on leaving. And now as he puts the foot to the floor and straight out of the pit lane and will make his way up through towards the back corners. So now, how will the front runners respond to that, TK?
I think as much as they'll be worried, they won't be as concerned. He was speeding in the pit lane, got that crucial 10-second penalty, and this is going to be absolute heartbreak for Alpine now.
Well, it's going to put him on the back foot largely if he might be a little bit too early. Let's wait and see. I certainly can't imagine many are going to box this soon off those medium tyres. Though the hards are a good race tyre, are they that good? That's the big question. Otis Lawrence, though, making his way out of the chicane. And now firing down through towards the final couple of corners. We did see Ido making a few lock-up mistakes through the course of the opening stages of the race. Whether that is the issue, not quite sure. But regardless, Ido very well and truly 7.5 seconds back. And indeed, in comes Otis Lawrence. So maybe it's not a mistake, TK. Both Alpines in the pit. And it's a 10-second penalty. Speeding in the pit lane for Otis Lawrence. The race has been thrown.
Absolutely, what have they done? Alpine are going to be in shambles. Both drivers 1 and 2 on the circuit. Should have been 1 and 2 when they exited the pit lane. Both of them with 10-second penalties.
That is heartbreaking for both Alpines. Both of them unfortunately succumbing to penalties here and now, and that is unfortunately sticking a 1-2 at the very start of the race into obscurity. Alpine at this rate will not feature on the top steps of the podium here this time. They have pretty much written off Xandvoort here at this point. A disaster class here for the Enstone team, and it's really placed Otis Lawrence on the back foot. Like I said, polls for show, results for dough.
Where do you go from here if you're Alpine? You know this race pretty much has to be a burner. Do you maybe try and cause some carnage amongst the grid? Obviously, if you look at Otis Lawrence and Josh Ito, they've got Freddie Rasmussen behind them that could be incredible competition, for both individually but also for the team going through the season. Do they play a blocker role here, prevent them maybe scoring some crucial points in Xandvoort?
Well, in comes now Alfie Butcher for his stop. He's not going to make any mistakes. Julian Klaffenbach is, though. 10 seconds of time penalties going his way as well. Disaster for Kick Sauber. Alfie Butcher also leaving the pits also. Why are they struggling, TK? What is the problem with that brake marker board?
I have absolutely no idea. My only assumption would be is that it's ever so slightly more forward than they're used to in previous iterations of the F1 titles, but even that doesn't make sense with what we'd be expecting, where they've practiced this circuit, they've practiced the pit entry.
Yeah, absolutely. Alfie Butcher coming through the first bank section and back on the power. 3 drivers suffering 10-second time penalties for speeding in the pit lane. Extraordinary. I mean, I have to tell you, are we watching PCF1? Do let me know in the live chat as we now watch them come through the middle sector here this time. Alfie Butcher now P19 overall, but of course you'd fathom that the net race leader right now, Freddie Rasmussen, another opportunity for Red Bull now to grow their gap to Alpine in the championship, TK, and you can only imagine that's exactly what's going to happen at this rate.
You really hope so, and the engineers and the drivers behind the scenes at Red Bull will be going through every possible situation in their head at the moment as to what they can do, what they hopefully can try and work out. As Jana Watmis, it's the fastest lap of the race, and this could be where Red Bull really start to put pressure on the teams that all around them. But Scuderia Ferrari as well, the drivers that are now 1 and 2 could also have had a bit of a blessing here.
Yep, absolutely. Well, let's see where this goes. Obviously at the moment Jana Watmir in 5th place on track, but last lap was a fastest one, so you'd expect now Jarno to really put these hard tyres to the test. Of course, he'll be boxing later than most, being on that hard compound tyre. Obviously, he'll be joined by the likes of Duncan Hoffland, Jonny Tormler, Tom Manley, as well as Will Lewis, Xander Van Dijk and Reece Linton, Philip Prejnader, all opting to go for that early run on the hard tyre. Let's wait and see how this unfolds now as they make their way through turns 9 and 10 and then down the long straight. But they'll reach the heavy braking zone at the end of the course and into the chicane. Was following on the back of Ulas Azura. I think Jarno's just hoping for clean air and hoping that the top 4 are just going to box and just allow him that freedom to continue. But whether that is going to be the case this early on, I'm not quite sure. On lap 13 of 36 at the moment. And it looks like currently the top 4 are going to remain unchanged. Jarno still with DRS on the back of Ulas Azura, so that has not changed as such as now Ruben Pedreño looks to make a move past Nicolas Longue and has done so. So that is P6 on track now for Ruben Pedreño.
I've been informed by Dylan Warren in the live chat, and the great source of information that he is. The pit lane here is 60 kilometres an hour, slightly slower than what we saw over in Silverstone, which I believe is 80 kilometres an hour. The only assumption that I could potentially make here is that drivers have got confused between speed limits, but at this level of sim racing, I wouldn't have expected that to be the case. I think it is just maybe a bit of a mind lapse as they head into the pits, release the brake just too early, and they've coasted over that timing board, essentially.
Yeah, no, I think just really immense error, I think, at this moment in time. But well, let's wait and see how this pans out, because of course we've still got another flood of pit stops to come in. Who's to say that it's just Alpine and Julian Klaffenbach that are going to be suffering that same fate as we now watch them come through the latter point on this chicane and into the latter point on the circuit as well. 3rd sector. They are sat in proper at the moment. No changes in terms of the top 5 right now. No one has come into the pits as far as I can see. Goroman now beginning lap 15 as now we are seeing a pit stop come into play. And it's going to be Joris Krozen who comes in for a pit stop. Is he going to have trouble with the pit marker board? I don't think so. He's going to continue in. No, he is. 15 seconds. No, 10 seconds going his way as well, TK.
Wow, this is going to be an incredible race, maybe decided on penalties. It wouldn't be the first one that we've seen this week. I think there may be a few less words about it in our comment section, though, if this one does get decided by penalties handed out in the race.
Well, collecting penalties more than Pokemon here at the moment. On lap 15 of 36 at the moment. And whilst it's not Pikachu Thunderbolt, it's causing shockwaves in the live chat as it is in the commentary box right now, as Joris Krozen currently sits at the bottom of the classification at the moment. Barry Burman on lap 15 of 36, still continuing around the circuit. Of course, if this is a bug, TK, that can be later resolved in the stewards' room, Alpine still have a chance here.
Absolutely, and they'll have that right of appeal over to the stewards over at PSGL and be able to try and make their case for it. It'll be an interesting turn if that is indeed what caused them potentially to jump higher up. We've been told, and looking in the live chat, there is a bit of an issue going around at the moment, a feature, if you will. The brake marker boards aren't present on the pit lane for the drivers.
Well, in comes Ulas Azilrim for his stop now as well. So now we're seeing yet more medium tyres removed and hard tyres on. Of course, Ulas arguably one of the better performers in qualifying, certainly was in fact, as we saw it on track, as he now makes his way out of the pits and will rejoin just ahead of Joris Krozen, it would seem, as he comes out of the pit lane this time around on the hard tyre and younger tyres. And clinically enough, 5-lap fresher than the likes of Otis Lawrence and 6-lap fresher than Josh Ido. Ulas Azilrim not out of this, only 1.3 off the back of Julian Klappenbach, so that is essentially where he needs to be. DRS, remember, is all that Ulas Azilrim might need to really grasp a big result here at Xandvoort.
Yeah, you've really got to hold on to the DRS of the driver in front. It's so beneficial, especially if you're running the slightly higher wings that you may be at a track like Xandvoort. Really helps you get the car turned in through that second sector, and especially to the third as well. It's really tough technical because there is such a high-speed section, but so much of it, you want that car to turn in on a knife edge.
Yeah, certainly do. And now finally the Ferraris look to box. Barry Burman coming into the pits now. Is he going to avoid? No, he's not! Burman, 10-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Disaster for Ferrari as well. Once again at Xandvoort. And it's hard tyres on Burman's car. Thomas Ronhart also with hard tyres on, but he is now stuck in the pits as well as he now looks to rejoin. And he will come out behind Barry Burman alike. So yet more challenges for drivers during the pit stop phase. Here, even on here, lap 17 of 36. Burman suffering some issues.
This is absolutely incredible. 5 drivers have all picked up penalties. One more and we have a minute worth of penalties across the entire grid. And I'm guessing by how the previous pit stops have gone, let's just put it that way, that we're maybe not quite complete with the FIA handing out speeding penalties.
Well, it turns out my opinion that we were going to have a controversially, well, a less controversial season this campaign, I was definitely wrong, certainly after what happened last week. And now we have got the penalty situation here this week. Can you believe it, folks, at home? I certainly can't. Thomas Ronhart, though, didn't suffer that same fate. He currently sits 19th at the moment, though Barry Burman currently ahead of Ulas Azilrim. So they've now got a car between them at the moment. Azilrim, though, is not scuppered by said penalty, as we now have more cars coming into the pits. Nicholas Longate coming in, as is also Ismail Fassi. Pedreño also in the box, as now Ismail Fassi looks to leave the box. I don't think there was any penalties issued for those drivers, TK, so they should come out as normal.
No, they've all managed to stay clear of that speeding limit as they headed in towards the pit lane, managed to have their pit stop without any presumptuous penalties or precautionaries. But it is interesting to see how everyone's kind of managing it at the moment. We did see a couple of drivers going extremely slowly into that pit lane, or maybe overly cautious into the pit lane, just to ensure that they didn't pick up that penalty.
Well, Ismail Fassi was wheel to wheel with Thomas Ronhart on the escape coming out of the pits, and thankfully for him, obviously it did not end in tears for the two drivers. Fassi now behind Ronhart at the moment. 17th place for the Ferrari. His teammate Barry Burman a little bit further up the road, but remember, does have that penalty. Jarno Opmeer now the leader here and now, and everyone in the classification now on hard tyres. But remember, those in P1 down to P8 have been on them since the start. So now it's down to the likes of Opmeer to push now and try and get the most out of these tyres to try and undo the work that those have done on the initial medium run. So this is where Opmeer's pace really needs to come to the fore, TK.
Yeah, he's really got to put his foot down and really just go for it in the next few laps. Obviously, we're trying to figure out, we're roughly expecting the stop probably lap 24 to 26, if my math is anywhere near correct. It depends if they want to go kind of that undercut, the overcut, where they're wanting to stand and how good these hard tyres are feeling. We've seen drivers go in as early as only doing 9 laps on a set of the mediums, so we know they must be or have the longevity in them to go long into the race. So it is going to be a bit down to driver preference.
Yeah, obviously based on the last lap, it was approximately 3/10 between Otis and Jarno on that last lap, so not a lot between them, despite Jarno Opmeer being on older hard tyres. 18 laps amassed on them already. His last lap of 1:11.686. Currently sat 4 seconds clear of Duncan Hofland and lapping faster than Hofland as well by a near, well, pretty much just over 0.2 of a second. So Jarno lapping quicker than his Dutch counterparts at the top of the shop at the moment as he now kicks on lap 20. We're now over the halfway point at the moment as we now wait for yet more cars to join him in turn 1. And we have a few movements elsewhere as Philip Preschneider loses out to Reese Linton as now Xander Van Dijken comes into the pits.
Yeah, worry-free stop for the Papayas this time around. Gets in and out without any penalties and without any worries, but will drop considerably down the order. I wonder if they're going to come out behind Ruben Pedreño, and they certainly will indeed as they come out of turn 1. So we've got a new driver sat at the bottom down in P20.
Yeah, I don't think there was actually an overtake between Reese Linton and Philip Preschneider. I think it was just the eye-catching Xander Van Dijken dropping down the order as he undertook his pit stop. So my apologies, folks at home. That was not a move on track as we now watch them come through on the next run at the top of the crest and heading in towards the soiree of corners. Roller coaster circuit, as I alluded to before, as they now head downhill. Xander Van Dijken, the only driver currently on the mediums. We'll see how his times compare to the others out on circuit. Jarno Opmeer might likely respond in terms of what Xander Van Dijken has done. 16 laps left at the close of this one. Anyway, Jarno Opmeer still continues around on track, and we'll see what his last lap is going to be posted as. 1:11.908 was the one previous. He's already ploughed another 0.3 on Duncan Hofland already. It's a 1:11.926, and I can tell you that it's purple in the middle sector, not for Jarno Opmeer, but for Ruben Pedreño now. So Pedreño showing plenty of paces. Now we have more drivers coming into the pits right now, and it's Tom Manley who heads in, and Will Lewis following him out as well, TK.
Yep, both have done 20 laps on the set. The hard tyres will come out and do roughly about, 16 laps on a set of the mediums. No penalties for them either, and they join Xander Van Dijken just coming out right at the back, but of course will have the freshest and the softest tyres of the bunch going forward till the end of the race.
Yep, certainly will, and they will be distinctly quicker than those on the hards further up, especially if your name is Otis Lawrence, Josh Ido, and of course Frederick Rasmussen. But obviously, in the aim of trying to catch those cars that are sat in those net positions, it means you're going to have to overtake and viciously overtake a series of drivers further up the order to make it happen. So it could be the case that whether you're Otis Lawrence, whether you're Josh Ido, obviously we're not sure as to how the penalty situation is going to stand come the end of the race, but one thing is for certain is that it's going to be very tough for those on the mediums to really make something happen, especially now if you're Jarno Opmeer, because not only are you going to be losing time to the cars behind us, now Philip Preschneider moves into second with Joni Tormela coming into the pits. So that's the 2 Mercedes teammates. Obviously Tormela coming in, Preschneider will be staying out for yet another lap. Not seeing any more penalties come through here at the moment, TK, as Xander Van Dijken takes the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, 3 pit stops this lap. It was Hofland, it was Linton, and of course the who he alluded to slightly earlier on. They've all come in, worry-free pit stops themselves, drop roughly in amongst the pack and towards the bottom. We've got 2 drivers that have stayed out, starting on the hard tyres, Opmeer and Preschneider, and I think no doubts as to where they're going now, because they have got a considerable gap down to Lawrence in P3. But the important thing is that Jarno was still quicker than Lawrence last time around.
He was 1:11.987 for Jarno Opmeer last time out, and if we want to take a look at the laps that Otis Lawrence put in, it was a 1:12.012, so it wasn't even in the 1:11s, Otis Lawrence, and he is on 10 lap fresher hard tyres in comparison to Jarno Opmeer right now. So who knows? I mean, this could be Jarno building a very sensible gap, but bear in mind, no one else is really going to quicken in behind Otis Lawrence. That is the litmus test for the Flying Dutchman, is Otis Lawrence himself. The gap currently between those two, currently approximately 14 seconds, TK?
Yeah, about 14.1 seconds between the two drivers. Presnader's just pit, so actually we get a very accurate split of how the times line up. And this time, Lawrence was 0.3 quicker for the first time in a while.
Yeah, Philip Presnader on new boots as well, heading out of the pits. And on the mediums also, Tom Manley, leader of the medium runners, and needs to start making hay while the sun shines. Currently within DRS on Nicholas Longuet right now as they come over the crest and over the hill, coming out of the bank corner in the first sector at turn 3 and then through turn 4 and 5 and 6. This is when the race will surely heat up. 13 laps to go. If they're going to make something happen, it's got to happen now. Jarno Opmeer is still continuing around the circuit. There he is at the moment, the Flying Dutchman on his own. And he could be looking to pit now, given the very nature of the laps that we have remaining. Everyone else has moved on to medium tyres. He's now the sole driver, still remained on the hards, and if by magic, in he comes. Jarno Opmeer keen to avoid the brake marker issue that other drivers are having. No concerns for Jarno Opmeer as now we wait for him to put on the medium tyre. There's Otis Lawrence now. He will surely overtake Jarno Opmeer. There's enough window for Otis to make that overtake happen. Of course, remember, the two Alpines do have time penalties after that entering the pit lane infringement. Rasmussen in third. Technically right now your net P1 sitter with Alfie Butcher in fourth as well. Where does Jarno come out? He's going to be sat in P10 on the medium tyre, and that is not a bad stop at all. He has got Fassi, Ronhart, O'Silverin, Burremand, as well as Klappenbach, Butcher, Rasmussen, his teammates, Ido and then Lawrence ahead. A great chance here for Jarno to flex these newest medium tyres that we have seen enter the Zandvoort circuit.
Yeah, he sits 4 places higher than the closest medium runner. That's Tom Manley, who sits in 14th place at the moment, but he has the freshest tyres on the grid. And if we know anything about Jarno Opmeer, he's going to be driving with a little bit of fire, or a little bit of extra fire this week in that helmet. He's got something to prove.
Great chance here now for Jarno Opmeer all over the back of Ismail Fassi. Let's see how this strategy works now. I remember Jarno doing something different. It's not totally the same, but back numerous seasons ago, I think looking back to season 27, Australia, where he managed to move his way through the field, making a late change onto a fresh set of soft tyres while everyone else did not box. He managed to overtake all the way up to P3 on track. It was, you know, definitely one of the most remarkable moments we've seen, one of the most remarkable moments we've seen in PSGL that he has brought to the fore as now he has a look around the outside, looking to find a move this time on Ismail Fassi on the run up now through turn 1 and pushed onto the grass by the Ferrari as well. That was so close to carnage there for Jarno Opmeer. The tail whipped out on the Red Bull. His intentions are clear. He's looking to get through this field as quickly as possible. We have got 11 laps left to run. It's now on ever, TK.
Yeah, Fasci's not going to make it easy though. He will want to make that car as wide as possible as we head through the remaining of the laps. The Ferrari, he may not have any direct beef with Jarno Opmeer, but he just wants to hold the medium runner behind. Can he do so? Jarno to the inside. Almost contact between the two. There was contact as the Ferrari cut him off. The car half spun, but he's managed to recover that incredibly well.
That's twice they've come together. Jarno Opmeer and Ismail Fassi battling it out here at Zandvoort as they come down towards turn 11. And again, Jarno Opmeer looking all over the back of the Scuderia as they come through the chicane once again. Fassi determined to put the walls of defence up here, preventing the Flying Dutchman from finding the avenue, and again cutting off any access here for Jarno Opmeer. But now the long straight opens up, and arguably we reach the widest point on this circuit. Definitely the better opportunity for a lasting overtake. Here comes Jarno Opmeer again. Ismail Fassi going defensive. They all lock up at the front end. Jarno though with the tiger line as they creep out of turn 1 through towards turn 2. They're going to stay wheel to wheel. Jarno Opmeer now into 9th place and ahead of Ismail Fassi.
The Ferrari had to give that up. Jarno faked to the outside, went to the inside, committed to that line. It was a small mistake by Fassi that forced him to go slightly wide. Jarno had the move well and truly done before he even got a nose in, really. And now he sets his sights on his fellow homelander of Thomas Ronhart.
Certainly does. And obviously these two have had a storied history in this championship alone. And Jarno straight up the inside of his fellow Dutch counterpart here on their home circuit here this time. Ronhart with the better line up the inside coming through turn 10. But Jarno on the better compound of tyre, the faster medium rubber, and now ahead of Thomas Ronhart and into P8.
That almost didn't look like a challenge for Jarno. He just whooped around the outside. The better tyres really coming to his aid. And now he's got a couple of drivers in front of him that will be hoping to dispatch just as quickly as Ronhart.
He said that it would be a fiery finish to this Dutch Grand Prix. Surely he can't do the unthinkable. Well, first and foremost, He needs to take down the Turkish Ulas Yildirim. It's now side by side on the run down through towards the first corner apex, and smoothly does it here for Jarno Otmir. 3 laps acquired on those medium tyres, and they're still running as fresh as ever. Coming through the first sector now, this time through the back corner now, on the tail of the other kick-sabber of Julian Klappenbach. After disposing of Thomas Ronhaar earlier on, he's now going to go mean and green on this kick-sabber here this time. The Red Bull looking to give him wings as they come through into the middle sector here on lap 27.
He's only had these tyres on 3 laps, but he's made up as many positions in as many laps. It's an incredible show of force from Jarno Otmir at the moment. Goes for a 4th on lap 4. Fantastic stuff from Jarno Otmir. I thought Julian was trying to fight it around the outside there. Doesn't quite have the leg strip on the harder tyres. And Jarno moves up another position.
He's dancing on this circuit. It's like Swan Lake here at Xandvoort this time, on the tail of Barry Burremand. And the history these two have had has been plentiful. Otmir on the tail of the Ferrari here this time. Through the final couple of corners, we now watch them dice it through turn 27, almost pushing the Ferrari around. He's the only medium tyre compound holder inside the top 10, and at the moment looking to once again surpass other drivers to now give himself an opportunity at another podium finish, as though he moves around the outside of Barry Burremand. Jarno Otmir on the push and ahead of Burremand now and into P5.
Left space on the exit, maybe not left space on the inside by Alfie Butcher. Didn't quite see him coming, and Jarno Otmir will have to sit in P5 for the moment, but I don't think Butcher was expecting Otmir to even attempt the inside line there through turn 3.
Well, many people might have questioned whether a P5 was even on the cards after that late run on the hard tyre, but isn't it just? P5 for Jarno Otmir right now, and a little moment as he dives up the inside again on Alfie Butcher, keen to bring down the man in papaya as they come through in towards turns 9 and in towards turns 10, still trying to drag his car through past the McLaren, the Woking car against the Milton Keynes build as they now come down into the chicane. There's still nose to tail. Jarno can't quite find the avenue just yet. Butcher meeting him every which way. The walls of defence are stacked up by the young man.
He absolutely is. Jarno Otmir is well and truly on the chopping block at the moment. He's under pressure. He can't seem to get past the Butcher. That knife is sharp and he wants to know which way does Otmir want to go. Is he going to try and fake and move in towards the first corner, or will he do what we saw similar to last time around? Sticks it to the inside late on the brakes. Doesn't quite have the brakes in the tyres though. Can he try and go for it in towards 2 and 3?
Oh, he definitely can. Through past Alfie Butcher he goes. We saw a little twist of the wheel as well coming through the first corner, trying to find the grip on the escape and later providing him with the traction to get past Alfie Butcher. And now it's P4 and behind his own teammate Fredrik Rasmussen. Now, is there going to be team orders? Is Freddie going to say, Jarno, you're the faster man, push for the win? Who knows? They're currently manacled together, technically net P1 and P2. At the moment, if those penalties are applied, TK, it is a Red Bull 1-2.
We have no idea, of course, whether those penalties are going to be lifted, whether they'll stand, or what the situation will be in the stewards room. I don't think Red Bull are going to take that risk. They want to get it on the circuit because we know how fragile penalties can be, especially ones where we're being told that it could be an issue with the game and so easily rescinded. Jarno Otmir knows what he's got to do.
Well, at the moment, as we watch him come through the final corners, it may seem like we're watching one man at the moment, but at the end of the day, it's the one man making all the moves here in the closing stages of this Dutch Grand Prix. Rasmussen in third for now. Jarno Otmir keen to perhaps gain a place. Opts to now go a little bit long around the outside. Now cutting back in behind Rasmussen, looking for the potential switchback. Rasmussen, I don't think he's necessarily racing him. I think Otmir's just trying to find that open opportunity as he now looks to go around the outside of Freddie Rasmussen. Is he? Is he asking for the overtake? Is this him saying, Freddie, come on, let me through. Let me take on the Alpines here in the closing stages. 6 laps to go. Still anything can happen here in the Dutch Grand Prix here at PSGL.
This is Jarno definitely knocking on the door from his teammate. He's hoping for the invitation to step through the door to open, but I don't think he's got a key this time around. Rasmussen is the only one that can do it for him at the moment. He has to open the door, allow his teammate through, or he's going to make him break that door down, because I think that's how desperate Jarno could get at this very moment.
Well, let's see now. Coming down in towards the chicane here this time. Freddie Rasmussen's rear lights blinking on the back of the car, suggesting that the battery is running low. Same can be said for Josh Ido as well, as they now come through towards the final couple of corners at the moment. Otis Lawrence trying to drag out a gap on Josh Ido at the moment, knows perhaps what could be coming as now they storm down through towards turn 1 yet again. Of course, Jarno knows that these tyres do have a length, they have an expectancy. And now having a little look again down the inside of Fredrik Rasmussen as they come through the first corner here at Xandvoort. And now coming up through the slalom again. They're going to come through as a group of 4. 2 Alpines and 2 Red Bulls. Again, Jarno around the outside. Just looking to try and get out of the aero again, perhaps offering a little bit of cooling to the tyres, at the same time cooling the engine down, ensuring that his car operates at the highest level right now, at peak level. Of course, Jarno with the youngest tyres of anybody, even those that are on the hards right now, and they should be fit and well right through to the checkered flag. So you now watch them come down through towards turns 9 and turns 10 out of turns 8 very shortly. Lawrence, though, still with a half a second advantage over Josh Edo. Honestly, I don't know how it's going to unfold with the 2 Alpines later on. Obviously, we will keep you updated, folks, through the social media channels. If you want to find out what happens in terms of the penalties, I'm sure you'll be updated in due course. Of course, both Otis Lawrence and Josh Edo with 10-second time penalties after breaking the rules coming into the pits as deemed by the game. Therefore, in what you would think, they would carry over at the end of the race. But of course, stay up to date. Of course, there could be anything discussed. Whether it was a glitch, we're not quite sure just yet. But they now storm down through towards turn 1. It is Lawrence, Edo, Rasmussen and Otmir now all tying up for the win, as now Thomas Ronhard dives up the inside of Ulas Zilrim, and the Kickstarter up to 8th.
Let's not forget as well, the front 3 have the oldest hard tyres in amongst this grid. 21 laps for Lawrence, and for Rasmussen it's 22 laps for Edo, who was the first driver out of anyone on this grid to enter in towards that pit lane and set off the cycle of 10-second penalties amongst this grid.
Well, let's wait and see, folks. Let's wait and see. It's a job to know where this is going to go. 4 laps to take us through to the checkered flag. It's Lawrence, Edo and Rasmussen all on 21 or 22 lap old hard tyres. Jarno Otmir on 8 lap old mediums. Alfie Butcher has also rejoined this group as well. Currently sat down in P5 with Barry Burraman for company as they come down in towards the chicane. Still remain as they are for now as we watch them come through the final 2 corners to then open up lap 33. And it'll be approximately 3 to 4 laps to go here in this Dutch race. Rasmussen still locked in 3rd at the moment. No changes between the 2 Red Bulls. We suspected they might decide to swap the 2 of them, allow Jarno to push and attack the 2 Alpines and make assurances of this out on track. Of course, if this carries through and the penalties carry through, then Frederick Rasmussen will take the absolute lead in the championship.
He certainly will, and that's the internal debate I think at the moment that may be going on at Red Bull Racing. Maybe they're just saying to their drivers, look, we're not getting involved. If you want to get past your teammate, you're going to have to scrap it out on the tarmac, because we're not going to give you team orders to do so.
No, absolutely. If this carries on as well a bit too long, the effectiveness in Jarno Otmir's tyres is going to fall off. If anything, he needs to get past ASAP and get the track position and take it home. But then again, of course, it might be the case that they're just waiting and watching on, just allowing Otmir to maybe conserve that tyre and leave it for the very last chance of asking. Because one thing's for sure, when you're Otis Lawrence, if you know Otis Lawrence, penalties aside, these 2 Alpines are going to fight like their lives depend on it. They know that nothing is certain until you cross the start-finish line.
I think we also need to remember that Freddy Rasmussen is also in the battle for not only the win here, but also the championship. He's, you know, he might be being told to let Jarno through, but he's going, no, I want to win this race. I want to take my place in the championship. Because as much as, you know, Jarno is an idol and a star in F1 sim racing, Freddy Rasmussen, in his own right, is a champion multiple times over various series.
Yeah, I mean, Freddy doesn't have to let Jarno through at all. Just let him stay out and continue onwards, because he is in this championship fight. And at the moment, Red Bull are in the perfect position here as well, TK, because it's just as much about the team's championship as it is about the drivers' championship. At the end of the day, Red Bull are in the perfect position here. They might be saying to their drivers, listen, just hold position. You're going to inherit P1 and P2 regardless after these penalties are applied. So this might be just some smart thinking on Red Bull's part. Let's take the 1-2. Let's hold position. And regardless, you're going to have Rasmussen lead at the end of the race, win the race here at Xandvoort with Otmir in second place position. It doesn't really get much better than that, does it?
It certainly doesn't. The way that they want to try and work it together, it's going to be interesting to see how they hold off. We've got, 3 laps to go, 2.5 once we cross the timing line at the moment. So it is going to be a battle towards the end. And I wonder if we are going to see some Red Bull battling it out on that final lap. It's quite a classic Jarno Otmir move. He'll sit in behind, he'll wait for his opportunity, go for it at the final time of asking, will Rasmussen have something to respond?
Well, especially when you're coming into the closing stages of a race, it's never wise to be, should we say, sometimes leading on the final lap. And we're now on the penultimate lap, by the way, everybody. Lap 35 of 36. So it might be the case that the fireworks start to really erupt over the course of the next lap. Let's wait and see. Rasmussen still locked in behind Josh Edo. And at the moment, Otis Lawrence may be leading the way. Edo keeping him honest though at the moment, but it is two Alpines that are locking out the front two places, albeit though with the 10-second time penalties they both have. Rasmussen in third place, technically your net race leader at the moment with no penalty against his name. Same can be said for Jana Watmere and Alfie Butcher. Good value for a podium as well this time around. And I must say, it's been long awaited so far for Alfie Butcher, someone we would have expected to see big wins from this season. It will be his second P3 visit. If he does take this home on track, he will, should the penalties go through, finish P3 here at the end of the race, and it will be a second podium of the season.
It absolutely will be. It's going to be close quarters for no matter what happens in terms of this race result. I've been told, and I'm having a look at some of the replays and results of people speeding into the pit lane. I can confirm that limit board was there for everything that was going on. It was just a poor choice of braking marker as they headed into that pit lane. Speeding happened. It wasn't a glitch.
Well, Alfie Butcher also tried Jana Watmere then, but judging on that, it does look like the Alpine are going to forfeit the 1-2 at the moment. And Frederick Rasmussen with the what we believe to be the lead of the race. Also met with Jana Watmere in second right now. Alfie Butcher also sat in fifth at the moment, will inherit third as a result as they now peel through the middle sector. Regardless of what we can say about it, it's been a bizarre one, TK. 5 penalties recorded, as we can see on our screens in the pits. Just truly a remarkable race.
Absolutely. Being told Julian was actually the driver that took out the pit marker board as we headed in for that speed limit. So I think there will be something for the stewards to go through. But alas, that is something for them here. We're going to round the final corner, George. Is Lawrence that will take it home, but the penalties could be coming their way.
Yeah, Otis Lawrence having already mustered in 3 pole positions this season. It's not going to lead to a victory though this time, we believe. He will cross the line ahead, but it's victory for Frederick Rasmussen. Once more, the Dane is on top. And once again, another winner this time, this season, his 3rd win of the campaign. Frederick Rasmussen, the Great Dane, 3 in a row here in PSGL. And it's a 1-2 for Red Bull also. Yet another podium going the way of Jana Watmere. That's his 3rd second place finish of the season. And it will be Red Bull categorically leading the way in the team's championship with another large points deficit opening up against Alpine this time. And congratulations to Alfie Butcher, a second 3rd place visit this season and a second podium to boot as well. Red Bull in control as they were last campaign in the F1 Sim Racing World Championship and the season before. They are now back with a bang here on F1 25 and it shows no signs of stopping, TK.
It certainly doesn't indeed. What a race we've just seen as well, and what a victory for Red Bull Racing and, of course, Freddie Rasmussen and Jana Watmere getting 1st and 2nd. Alfie Butcher will be very happy to get that podium, but heartbreaking commiserations for Otis. He dropped down, I think it was 16 positions in the end there after getting that 10-second penalty. It just shows the scale of how close all these drivers are.
Yep, Frederick Rasmussen is your winner for a 3rd time this season. Jana Watmere in 2nd place, also for a 3rd time this season. Alfie Butcher for a 2nd time on the podium in 3rd. Thomas Ronhaar, Ulas Zildrim, Fassi, Pedreño, Longe, Manley, Tormala, Dyken. Then comes Hoffland, Linton, Lewis, Prejnader, Lawrence, then Edo, Burremand, Klaffenbach and Krozen routed towards the rear as well. And that pretty much signs off our results for the day. Red Bull categorically on top in great style. Obviously, whilst it was a little bit quiet to begin with, Tom, a few moves here and there. Obviously, the big moves, I think, right at the start of the race was obviously the big Kick Sauber moment where Klaffenbach was doing battle earlier on with Ulas Zildrim, then went through Thomas Ronhaar. The race actually for Ronhaar went rather well, finished 4th, I think, on track at the very end. So he's still taking, whilst it's on a podium, some big points at the very end of the race.
Yeah, up 7 positions from where he once started. I don't think anybody can complain with the race that he might have had. Yes, it's not necessarily a podium, but he may have shown a little bit of sighting of the old Ronhaar, really starting to come back in. Home circuit as well. What a place to gain so many positions and come within the barest of margins to getting that 1st podium.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. I think that the story has to be Red Bull. I mean, what a performance. And also the story needs to be Alpine. I mean, what on earth happened, TK? I mean, they were in such a strong position. 1-2 at the end of qualifying. You would have, made them almost dead certs for the lead and the win. I mean, come the end of play, especially after a fantastic run in qualifying. And I want to say congratulations, Josh Edo, as well for a front row visit. Not often have we seen him do that. But Otis Lawrence proving that over 1 lap he's dangerous. Just maybe the race pace whilst it is good, it's the consistency, I think, can be a problem.
Yeah, I think that's something that quite a lot of our drivers are going to have to maybe get a grasp on as we head through the course of the season, because it is a mental and physical endurance as you make your way through these Grand Prix and through these races, because yes, you may have the best qualifying in the world, but you've got to learn to, well, not learn to, but remember to be able to make those key decisions at a split second after 30 laps of racing.
Yeah, obviously at the moment it's all quiet on the Western Front inside our commentary box at the moment. No one in the waiting room for an interview just yet, but that can all change. Of course, Hotmere did join us rather late last time. As many of you will know, Frederick Rasmussen, someone of very few words, generally speaking, so it might not be the case we do catch Frederick Rasmussen here this evening. But ultimately, TK, who impressed you the most today?
I think I've spoken about them earlier. Thomas Ronhart had a fantastic race for what is essentially wanting to be his return here this afternoon. Yes, it's his home circuit, so you got to maybe take that into the waiting a little bit, but I think we saw snippets of old Ronhart really coming back, and that's something that we've missed.
Yeah, no, I think so. And obviously, let us know in the live chats, do you think were your favourite players here in today's race? I'm sure there'll be many Jarno Hotmere fans. He, of course, provided 99 or 95% of the action in the final stint towards the end of the checkered flag. It was truly a remarkable moment. Could have easily led to a win on track, but at the end of the day, Red Bull still getting the goods where they needed it, folks. Get your comments in. Let us know who you thought was who certainly made the biggest influence out on circuit. I'm sure many of you will say Jarno. Big thank you to Irune as well for the kind words as well. Let's go Fred, says Magnus. Of course, folks, we do have plenty more to bring you through the course of this season. Just a quick reminder as to where we're going for future races. Next week, we will not be back. We've got a break week coming up on August 20th. We will be back, though, for Red Bull Ring on August 27th. We do have China, though, on September 3rd. Belgium for September 10th for round 7. And then on September 17th, we take a trip to Jeddah for round 8. Qatar then for September 24th, round 9. Another break week then on October 1st. We then have Bahrain for round 10. Australia, round 11. Mexico, Vegas for the penultimate round. And then Abu Dhabi to sign off the season. Thank you all so much as well for your company that we have had you, of course, for this broadcast. We really do appreciate every single one of you. If you haven't done so already, you know what to do, folks. Please leave, if you're watching on YouTube, a like and also subscribe to the PSGL channel. And also, if you've been watching on Twitch as well, big hello to you guys. Leave a follow to the channel as well. We will be streaming a lot more on all 3 platforms as well. If you've been watching on TikTok, you know what to do. Spam the like button and also leave a follow also. TK, I think we'll close it there. Where can they find you, good sir?
You can find me on every single social media at They Call Me TK, sometimes with a little underscore in front of it. And George, how about yourself?
Oh, well, you can find me at George Morgan TV on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok. Everybody, all across those spaces, it's always the same. Any final remarks from you, TK, before we close the show?
No. Well, maybe one thing from me. I think Xandvoort always delivers.
It definitely does. The roller coaster circuit providing us with a wonderful sequence of events after the pit stops and also during the pit stops as well. How about those time penalties? Will there be some severe repercussions? How will that affect the drivers going forward? Still early days, but 10 rounds to go. We'll see you next time, folks, for more PSGL. It's goodbye.